Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm, and you are watching first part of What If Kid Naruto goes to another world and creates his own harem. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And for more exclusive and spicy content, follow me on Patreon. Link is in the description below. And now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Everybody has heard the tale about a nine-tailed fox with enormous and terrible power. The village hidden in the leaves, a ninja village, was almost completely destroyed by the fox. This enormous fox defeated a number of courageous ninja. However, the village was ruled by one ninja known more popularly as the fourth Hokage. His name was Minato Namikaze. He and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, sealed the fox inside their infant son with a potent jutsu and sacrifice. Uzumaki Naruto was his name. He was despised by many of the villagers and grew up alone after failing the Ninja Academy exam 3 times. He thought he would never be able to pass until Mizuki, one of his academy instructors, revealed the secret. Both Naruto and the ninja looked desperately for the scroll after it was taken. Naruto was currently perusing the scroll and observing the various jutsus created and left by ninjas past. Naruto looked at the necessary hand signals and said, what's this? Telephone por ta tian jutsu. I guess I can try this. At least it isn't the clone jutsu. Naruto tried to commit this to memory. Let's see. Tiger, snake, rabbit, snake again, dragon, ox. A young girl named Hinata Hyuga, who has blue hair, was depressed and wandering the outskirts of the village in the woods. Her father has completely abandoned her, which is the reason she is depressed. She didn't even realize that Hanabi, her younger sister, was pursuing her. Hanabi, who believed that her big sister was everything, believed that the influence of the blonde boy named Naruto was the primary cause of her failure. Both of them followed sounds coming from the left. Naruto continued to practice until the very end. Unaware that his two-person audience was wondering what he was doing and where he got that large scroll, Naruto simply said, "Okay, I think I got it now. Focus my chakra, then do the hand signs." With his eyes closed, Naruto exclaimed, "And finally, tiger." But nothing materialized. Unaware that he was beginning to fade away from sight, he picked up the scroll and took another look at it, thinking, maybe this jutsu is a bust. When Hinata noticed, she finally let out a shout. "Naruto!" she exclaimed as she ran to him, startling Hanabi so much that she leapt out in terror as Hinata turned to see her sister there. "Hanabi! What the hell?" Naruto exclaimed as a bright blue light composed of enormous chakra engulfed him and his body, and the scroll abruptly vanished. Hanabi and Hinata were unable to see what was happening because it was so bright. Naruto and the scroll vanished when it was all over. "Naruto! Where did he go?" Hinata exclaimed, perplexed by the entire situation. Naruto, on the other hand, was in a light tunnel of some sort where cosmic stars were visible. Since Naruto's body was a blue light, it was impossible to see as he traveled through time and space. His body was disassembled and, unbeknownst to him, was changing. Naruto screamed, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, ah," because he could still see what was happening and could see a bright white light at the end of the tunnel. That's all we hear from him. Everything becomes white. At this point, we are in a basic city. We sigh when we hear the city's name. Seinen. 2 voices can be heard conversing as we are led to a neighborhood and a house with a mailbox that reads Yuki House. His eyes were golden brown and his hair was orange brown. "Mikan, I'm heading out to school," he exclaimed. Even though his hair is a little spiky, it is still kept tidy. He is 16 years old and stood at a height of approximately 164 centimeters wearing a spring uniform. He is a freshman at Seinen High School. He left for class, where the girl he called Mikan was his younger sister, who is 12 years old and 139 centimeters tall. In addition to having brown hair, she had golden brown eyes. It was quite lengthy and well organized. Her measurements are B70W52H73 for those who are interested. Mikan said, "Take care of Rito." As she secured the house, she began to leave for her school. Mikan was unaware that she was being followed as she made her way. He wore a red coat, black pants, a blue hat, sunglasses, and a white mask over his mouth. He set out to hunt. On one of the rooftops in Sinan's downtown, a blue light appeared. Fortunately, with all the sunlight, it blended in so well that nobody noticed or cared. Naruto's scream is audible, but his voice sounded a little deeper. His clothes didn't seem to fit him when he first appeared, and he appeared somewhat taller, with longer hair and a slightly more toned body. Naruto surveyed the area. He stood up and asked himself, "Where am I?" Then he saw the scroll. Trying to tolerate a sudden headache, he said, "Oh my head, why do I feel like I know this place when this is my first time here?" Naruto turned his gaze to the scroll. What did that jutsu do? He opened it, searched for the jutsu, and discovered a small, worn-out warning label. Not believing what he had just read, Naruto screamed, "Warning, this jutsu has proven to be unstable with unknown effects and causes the user to disappear from the world." Oh no. So, I'm dead. Naruto turned to see who had just said, "If you're dead then I'd be dead, fool." But no one was there. When Naruto pinched his cheek, he realized he was still alive and asked, "Am I hearing voices?" In response to Naruto's question, "I'm alive all right, but if that's the case, what happened to the maker of this jutsu then?" From a fourth wall perspective, he was transported to a world where he created Harem in an alternate reality of, well, let's just say, a place called Fairy Tale, where all the most attractive women were his for the taking, though that is neither significant nor the main focus of this story. Oh well, I guess it doesn't matter, I don't know where I am, but I'm going home, Naruto said after a moment of realizing that something had changed about him, including the way he thought. He saw that his ninja tabi hardly fit and that the sleeves of his clothing were shorter. To ease his feet, he removed them just below him. He heard a call for assistance and saw a young girl with brown hair being pursued. After grabbing the scroll, Naruto leapt to the ground and automatically managed his chakra to glide silently and carefully down the tall structure. He then leapt from wall to pursue the man, who, based on the way he was pursuing the young girl, seemed to be some kind of child pedophile. Naruto didn't even pause to consider how he was accomplishing all of this. He now does it almost instinctively, as if a natural talent had suddenly awakened inside him. Mikan was the girl being pursued, and she was now trapped at a dead end. She turned to face the stranger who was pursuing her and said, "Oh no," she closed her eyes and sobbed, "Somebody help Rito, anybody please." Naruto then leapt on the perp's shoulders and knocked him unconscious, eliminating him. When Mikan opened her eyes and saw her savior, Naruto asked, "You okay?" Despite the fact that he appeared to be a bit of a teenage jerk wearing clothes that no longer fit him since few Japanese people resemble him, his appearance, including his body, face, hair color, and even eyes, leads him to believe that he was either American, German, or English. "Why yeah," she said, recognizing the defeated man. She thought to herself, "Did he take him down? I didn't even hear him do it." He said to her, "Well, I guess I should be going." As she heard his stomach, Mikan exclaimed, "Wait, I need to at least thank you somehow." Unaware that he was so hungry, her savior blushed. She said, "How about I make you something?" Naruto was still unaware of her name. "I guess that's okay, he said. She said, "Mikan Yuki Mikan," he answered, "Uzumaki Naruto." Mikan was a little taken aback by his Japanese-sounding name. They went to Mikan's house. After leaving the ally, Mikan went to the house phone and said, "Well, here's my house. You can use our shower while I make a call to my school." As Naruto surveyed the house, Mikan indicated the location of the shower. He could tell that although this house and the city were different from his own, they were similar. As Naruto entered the bathroom, he noticed the shower and bathtub while listening to Mikan inform her school that she wasn't feeling well today on the. He thought to himself, telephone, wait, how'd I know that? Something was off with Naruto, but he was still unable to identify it. After shutting the door, he took off his shrunken garments. When he finally got naked, he was completely shocked by how he looked in the mirror. His hair was spikier than before, and he was taller, slightly muscular, and extremely well-toned. Cleaning was simple because everything in the bathroom operated similarly to his world. Naruto wondered what had happened, how he was able to perform sophisticated ninja moves with such chakra control, and how he knew some things that should have been unfamiliar to him. He kept asking himself these questions until he heard someone knocking on the shower room slide door. "Naruto-san. I left you some clothes and moved that scroll you were carrying to the living room. Your lunch is ready," Mikan responded. "Okay." Naruto sighed in response. He turned off the shower and said, "Okay, for now, let's just see what I can do for now and figure out what that scroll did to me." Since Naruto is completely nude and drenched in water due to the steam from the hot water covering his manhood for the time being, this is your fanservice, female fans. He located the clothing that Mikan had brought. It consisted of a pair of black boxers, green jogging pants, and a blue shirt. The shirt was a little tight on him when he put them on, but it wasn't uncomfortable. As Naruto made his way to the living room, he noticed the scroll beside the couch and the straightforward lunch Mikan had prepared for him. It looked good, but it wasn't ramen with gratitude. Naruto took a seat and ate his lunch. Mikan approached him wearing an apron and asked, "So where are you from?" Technically, Naruto, who is still 12 years old, thought Mikan was cute in that way, but he wasn't sure how to respond without coming across as crazy. "I'm not really sure how to answer that," he replied. "What do you mean?" Naruto answered, "Well, I don't know if you'd believe me." As she sat down to hear Naruto's life story, Mikan said, "Well, I got the day to listen." After hearing Naruto's tale, Mikan was lying in her room. Naturally, Rito was worried when he learned that his sister didn't attend school. However, after telling him what had happened, Rito expressed gratitude to Naruto for saving his sister's life. However, Mikan withheld Naruto's life story from Rito because even she found it difficult to accept the existence of a world apart from their own. Naruto was permitted to remain for the time being until he could decide what to do and where to go. He picked on some intriguing jutsus while he was reading the entire scroll to see what he could do to improve his circumstances. He managed to return, but he had a lot on his mind at the time, so he temporarily fell asleep on the couch as Naruto watched Mikan say goodbye to her older brother. Rito left for school the next morning. "Naruto-san, I'm heading out to school," exclaimed Mikan. He put on an extra pair of Rito's shoes and exclaimed, hold on, let me go with you." Despite being accustomed to ninja tabis, this was his first time wearing shoes with toes. There haven't been any issues today as Naruto and Mikan strolled toward her school. "Thanks for walking me here. You know your way back, right?" he responded. Unaware that many of Mikan's classmates were staring out the window and wondering who the guy who dropped her off was, he said, "Yeah, I should be fine." She said to him, "Okay then, see ya later." Naruto waved back, "Later." He examined the funds that had been lent to him. Since the amount on the bill was the same as the amount in Ryo back in the leaf, he remarked, "I guess yen has the same value as Ryo's back home." Wondering what to do, Naruto wandered the city. He wrote down every jutsu that he believed would be helpful to him and that he wished to learn. Although everyone here doesn't know who he is and isn't attacking him without cause, on the one hand, they seem to be about as nice as anyone you would meet. Perhaps he could settle down here, but that would require employment, and based on what he remembered, the transfer across time and space somehow taught him the customs of this place and increased his understanding of taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu. He still didn't fully understand why he grew older. He might have hopped across time and space instead of dimensions, but since he's not a scientist, he'll put that mystery on hold for the time being because he smelled something that made him hungry. "I know that smell anywhere," he exclaimed, sprinting over to it. The proprietor of a ramen cart said, "Welcome, what can I do for you?" Naruto exclaimed excitedly, "Gimme one large pork ramen, old man." As he prepared some ramen, the elderly man remarked, "You got it. I guess you got some kind of holiday from school or something." "Holiday?" The old man was suspicious of Naruto's statement, but he still gave him his bowl after Naruto paid him. As Naruto listened and ate, the elderly man said, "Now don't tell me you're some kind of delinquent skipping school. Nah. You look like too nice a kid to do that. Even still, you shouldn't go cutting school, kid. I don't know what kind of troubles you're having at home, but I think it's still important to give it your all and attend school. How do you expect to get anywhere without an education, kid? Even us ramen chefs have to go to school to be a ramen chef." Naruto was finishing up. But what if I just don't fit in?" he inquired. Now, I think you're old enough to understand you shouldn't let that get to ya. The people who truly accept you for who you are the ones who matter. Since they're undoubtedly your friends, long as you got them, you'll be fine," he responded. As Naruto left, he said, "Now you better get a move on before the cops decide to take you in for skipping out. Come back anytime you're free though. I guess for now I'll hide out and ask Rito what's the nearest school I can go to," Naruto remarked, thinking about the ramen owner's words as if he had just spoken to a saint or sage who had given him sage advice. Not as good as Ichiraku's, but still the guy was as nice as old man Tucci. "I might as well do some training in the interim. According to the scroll, I essentially acquire their experiences each time they pop, and I appear to be able to do shadow clones fairly well." He thought, that should come pretty handy in mastering jutsus, as he got the scroll and spent the next 8 hours training. He learned and even understood the concept and theories for chakra control without any problems. He chose an abandoned building that few people would enter, and in the short time he mastered some sealing jutsus and shadow clones. He also made a note of the Rasengan, but he hasn't mastered it yet, and he was going to try one jutsu later this evening since Mikan should be out of school by now. Naruto made his way to her school. Mikan just exited the school building and saw Naruto. "Naruto-san," she exclaimed. He said, "Hey, you ready to go?" She didn't anticipate that he would also pick her up, so she said, yeah." One of her classmates exclaimed, "Mikan? Who is this?" Since they don't resemble each other in the slightest, someone else asked, "This can't be your big brother, right?" Mikan blushed. She hurriedly exclaimed, I gotta be going now later." As they made their way to the market area to purchase dinner-related groceries, Mikan was already accustomed to doing such things, which surprised Naruto. He spent the majority of his life eating ramen, so he could hardly cook eggs if he tried. After Rito returned home, the day was rather quiet. "Mikan, I'm home," he exclaimed. Mikan answered, "I'll have dinner ready in a bit, Rito." Naruto was experimenting with his shadow clone jutsu during this process. Okay, first I make the seal, then I pour a little of my blood on the seal, then I do the shadow clones like normal, and just to make it interesting I'll add in some spice with my own original jutsu. He said with a sense of anticipation. If this works, then the shadow clone jutsu will be stronger than ever. Or at least that was the plan, to prevent the clones from popping as easily. However, as with everything in the Telovru universe, a series of coincidences is about to complicate matters further. As a storm was moving towards Sinon directly behind Naruto, Mikan noticed it. She removed her apron and remarked, looks we're in for a storm, I better get Naruto-san inside. Naruto exclaimed, blood clone transformation jutsu. But just as the jutsu was beginning to work, a lightning bolt struck the same spot, knocking him back with the shockwave. Ow! Naruto slowly stood up, not realizing that his jutsu had apparently worked, but the clone immediately entered the bathroom and leapt into the bath where, depending on your point of view, another unlucky or fortunate guy was. Two yells were heard. Ah! Were the two cries that Naruto and Mikan heard as they hurried to the restroom and noticed Rito standing beneath a stunning blonde girl who resembled Naruto. Thoughts of her possibly being his twin were halted when they noticed that she was completely nude. With anxiety, Mikan called, "NN Naruto-san. Do you have a twin sister by any chance?" He answered, "No, but I think I did make her," she exclaimed. "You made her?" The blonde girl then broke down in tears. Like a newborn adolescent, by giving her a snack, they were able to calm her down. Mikan wore one of her mother's tops, and while it fit well, her bust size, even for a young adolescent girl, was larger than her mother's because of the way the melons on her were now pressed and the exposed cleavage at the top. She had yet to put on underwear. "Tell me about this, Naruto-san, but don't worry, I'll cancel the jutsu right now." He began by explaining, "Well, I was just wanting to test the blood clone jutsu theory, since supposed they'd be more durable than shadow clone and there wasn't a warning label of what could go wrong." He skimmed through the warning label, assuming everything would be okay. Naruto yelled as he did the hand sign, but she was still there slurping on a go-gurt and went on to the next one in the box. She really seemed to love those. "Right now. Rito said, "She's still here and snacking on our stuff." When the girl clone of Naruto heard him, she leapt at him and curled up in his stomach. "Hurry up. Leave." He began to mutter, "I'm not GG good with GG girls," as he felt her chest pressed against his manhood. "Is he alright?" Naruto inquired. She explained her sadness for her older brother by saying, "Yeah, he just has a really awkward personality when it comes to girls." "Why is she acting like a baby?" Mikan inquired. "Well, that's strange." Then it struck him. "I wonder if maybe that lightning bolt that came out of nowhere did that and somehow made her as real as me. Let's see, I did the seal, put a bit of my blood, did the jutsu. Is that actually feasible? Since she still doesn't grasp the idea of jutsus," Mikan inquired. Looking at the clone who was now dozing off on Rito, Naruto remarked, "I don't know, but it's the only thing I can think of right now given what happened. She sure seems attached to Rito." "Yes, I'm curious as to why when they woke up the following morning, Rito couldn't go anywhere without the clone following him, and she wouldn't let him go." Mikan asked because they couldn't really understand it but decided to leave it alone for the time being and would have to find a solution soon. Naruto remarked, "Man, this is just weird. You're telling me is there nothing you can do to help her catch up with her coursework?" Mikan inquired. He answered, "Hey, I'm a ninja, not a doctor." Mikan noted, "I thought you told me you failed that exam." "Speaking of the school, where is it?" "Hey Rito, why don't you take the day off till we can do something about her education problem?" He said, "It's a technicality." He stood up. As the clone continued to hold on to him, Rito asked, "Why do you need to know?" She was currently very attached to Rito. As Rito gave the directions, he responded, "I think I need to get myself an education here, and since I can't find work like I normally would back home." Rito arrived at Sinon High School, entered the school grounds, and heard a yell as he looked around. "Hey! Why are you people reading such blatantly dishonest content? I will have to take those away." Naruto turned to see it was a girl with long black hair and yellow eyes. She was quite beautiful. As he took note of her impressive cleavage, she took some adult magazines from a few students. She then turned to look at Naruto. "Hey you." She made note of her suspicions about Naruto, saying, "You're not a student here." He informed her, "Well, no, I mean I just got here." "That isn't the purpose right now. A boy your age ought to be in school. People will become shameless if they stray from their education." She scolded and yelled at Naruto. "However, I'm here to discuss with your principal." "What's the word? Apply? Or was it a transfer?" "Transfer? Right now in the semester? You have to be a foreigner if you think you can waltz in here and do what you want," the girl said. Giving him a very predatory look, she informed him. "Just calm down, miss. Kotagawa Yui, but it's Kotagawa to you, Buster." "Okay, Kotagawa-san, just calm down." Don't tell me to relax. She informed him that she was a member of the disciplinary committee at Seinen High School. Kodagawa coughed, and Naruto asked himself, why do I feel like she reminds me of someone? Before deciding to use his ninja skills to slip away by dropping one of the smoke bombs he had brought with him during the transfer. What? Wait till I get my hands on you, she said. Noticing that the blonde foreigner had vanished, she shouted. Man, that girl is pretty scary. I wonder if all girls are like that. Oh, now I remember, Naruto remarked, recalling Sakura Haruno, a classmate with pink hair who piqued his interest despite her cuteness. She had a tendency to lose her temper then. While searching for the principal, Naruto saw a man in a red suit strolling around holding something. Excuse me, exclaimed Naruto. Yes? Naruto inquired, do you know where I can find the principal? The short, plump man answered, yes, that's me. With optimism, Naruto said, oh great, I don't suppose you could help me transfer to this school? Professionally, the principal said, no, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you'll have to wait till next semester, young man. As the principal swiftly picked it up and left, Naruto noticed a picture that had fallen out of his pocket and realized it was a picture of young girls wearing swimsuits. Naruto got an idea from this. The principal was going to walk into his office. The principal exclaimed, you who? As his perverted impulses took over. This is the real Naruto using his seductive jutsu on the principal, not the clone. As the principal perspired and considered the boy he had just met, Naruto said in his most alluring voice, Mr. Principal, did you really turn down my Oni-sama at a request for us to go to school? The principal, gasping for air, couldn't take his eyes off her. Oh, that was your brother, you say? And you're his sister? He asked. Naruto uttered the words, please let us go to this school, slowly and sensually. The principal shouted, okay, and started working on Naruto's paperwork. Naturally, Naruto had to establish a reputation for the clone now that he had persuaded the principal to allow him to attend Seinen High School in exchange for his twin sister's attendance. Naruto took the male and female uniforms with him when he departed. The principal appeared excited as he sat in his chair. His smile was perverted as he said, Naruko-chan. Naruko was lying on Rito's lap, enjoying the fact that he was petting her head and long blonde hair. The day after Naruto was enrolled in school. They still haven't purchased her clothing. It wouldn't be an issue if her teenage body wasn't so immature, but she could hardly walk 10 paces before tripping and breaking down in tears. Fortunately, Rito, Mikan, and Naruto stayed close enough to stop the majority of her falls. Rito fed her, mostly, and she liked it. They tried to get her to talk, but she was too much like a newborn and couldn't take in much. However, she did a fantastic job wearing the adorable charm, which made the three of them giddy for some reason. She made body gestures to indicate that it was coming, but she was unable to use the restroom without tripping and falling, so teaching her how to do so was another hassle. Mikan kept the boys out because she had a teenage body that most boys their age would go crazy over, even though she had an infantile mind. That left the boys to carry her and Mikan to clean her up. All of this occurred after Naruto returned with the uniforms. Fortunately, he had about a week to find a solution because he can only keep a shadow clone going for so long before exhausting himself. And if he shows up without her, it might be a problem. This leads us to the present day. Since there have been no reports of the man who attempted to abduct Mikan previously, Naruto is waiting in front of her school to walk her home. Fortunately, Naruko is dozing off on the couch in some way. Rito persuaded her to allow him to attend school. Her body and mental state completely blurred the line between cute and sexy, even though we can see her napping on the sofa right now. As he considered the situation, Naruto thought to himself, man, what am I gonna do with her? I got about 5 days left to figure out a way to get her brain up to speed. She definitely learns fast, but getting her to understand something is another matter entirely. Well, I managed to finish making 3 sets after going around town yesterday, though I can't get her to use it till she has a better understanding of things. Better, it looks like it's just me and Rito. Naruto turned and said, Naruto-san, to Mikan. Oh hey there, he said in response as she waved goodbye to her friends and walked alongside him. Mikan responded, you're early. As they made their way home, he said, yeah, well, Naruko finally fell asleep, so I figured I'd at least come by to pick you up. Well, thank for that, but I think I can handle myself better now. Still haven't figured out how to fix Naruko, huh? No, and to be honest, I don't think anyone has ever had this problem before. Too bad this world isn't advanced enough to fix a brain like in the movies, said Naruto. Well, I think the idea of your world is fictional enough, and sadly modern medicine here wouldn't help much since the doctors would just think she's suffering a form of mental degradation such as autism, for example, she responded. You sure know a lot. Did they really teach all that in your school? Replied Naruto. They continued to walk when Mikan said, a little bit, but you see enough of it on the news that it just becomes secondhand knowledge. They arrived home. They saw Naruto sitting by the stairs, covered in what looked like flour, as soon as they opened the door. Naruto asked, "Oh Naruto, what happened?" While Naruto just gave him a bewildered, incomprehensible look, Mikan surveyed the kitchen. She must have learned to open the closest food after waking up, and because of her height, she must have grabbed the flour first and dropped it. Mikan said, "Taking care of a baby teenager is a lot more work than a regular baby." Naruto grinned as she gave Mikan a look. She then sighed in defeat because, given her situation, she can't really blame her at this time. "Can't be mad at you though, so that means Naruto has to clean it up," she replied. He said, "What? Why me?" As if using this as blackmail, Mikan responded with a devilish smile. "She's your sister and it is partly your fault she's like this." Naruto relished Mikan's head pat. "I can't believe I just got outfoxed by you of all people," he was upset. She said, "I don't have to be a ninja to know that when you have blackmail material on someone, a ninja is supposed to be able to get info on other people, right?" Naruto was perspiring because he had either slept through or skipped the majority of Iruka's lectures. As he hastily departed, leaving Mikan to accompany Naruto to the bathroom for a bath, he responded, "I'm gonna go clean now." I could now explain how Naruto cleans, but who are we kidding? Let's watch Mikan and Naruto take a bath as Mikan used the shower head filled with hot water. Naruto, who currently has an infant-like mind, at least made animal-like noises that sounded like a fox with a couple of cues and ows, and enjoyed it. Naruto's large breasts were dripping water, and Mikan's small breasts were equally wet and dripping, and her long brown hair was equally wet. The hot water easily dripped off her long blonde hair. Naruto put on a shower cap to shield her eyes from the soap as Mikan used the conditioner on her. Mikan grabbed the shower head to wash the conditioner and said, "Here we go now. Now for the soap." Since getting Naruto to sit still was a chore in and of itself, Mikan rubbed the soap all over her, starting on her left leg and working her way up to her right leg. Naruto moaned sexily as she rubbed her breasts after making a small sound to indicate that she liked it. When she eventually washed her off the soap, Mikan said, "Hey, don't make weird noises like that." After drying off, Naruto was finally clean, and Mikan used her mother's exercise bra to support Naruto's breasts. Large enough to support Naruto's breasts but a little too small for her now that they were both wearing their sleeping clothes and Mikan had no plans to go out today. She was being dried and brushed while Mikan kept hers wrapped in a towel for the time being. Mikan patted Naruto's head for being a good girl, and she told her, "There, now you're all clean." Rito returned home shortly after they left the restroom because Naruto had jumped him. "Whoa!" he exclaimed, experiencing Naruto's remarkable bosom once more, which could rival Kodagawa Yui's once more. Naruto was curled up against Rito's chest. He began to flush, and he said, "I'm home." Mikan said, "Welcome back." Naruto saw Naruto on top of Rito once more. Since he had never had a sibling, he told her, "Come on sis," off of Rito. Despite his reluctance, Naruto obeyed and accompanied Naruto into the living room to take a seat. He put on a set of white beads, and Rito saw that Naruto was also wearing a set. "Oh, and hey Rito, give me your right hand." Rito said, "What is it?" "Just a little something I felt could help you when it matters. I read in the scroll that it helps with training by making things feel a bit heavier than normal, but the more you get used to a weight the heavier it gets to help build up your training. When it comes off I think you'll be surprised at the results. Think of this as a thanks for helping me out and Naruto too," he stated. "But I don't think, as a motivator," Mikan added. "Think about it this way Rito, if it works you could probably impress Sairenji-san." "Haruna-chan!" Rito exclaimed in a romantic mood as he considered the opportunity to truly appear brave in front of his longtime crush and beloved, Sairenji Haruna. "Rito?" Naruto called as Rito briefly vanished before the additional weight of the beads pulled him down. Rito said, "I feel so heavy." As Naruto crawled over to Rito and chuckled, Naruto said, "Sorry, I tried to give you a heads up, but you were kind of out of it." Meanwhile, an alien space exists in the far reaches of space. Meanwhile, a girl with pink hair noticed an alien spaceship passing the Earth in the far reaches of space. As a bright light enveloped her and she vanished, she said, "Okay, now's my chance." Returning to the Yuki residence after placing Rito on the couch, he is still adjusting to the additional weight of his body as well as Naruto's weight because she is cuddling up to him once more. Since he is unable to move her at this time, he muttered, "I am so sore and feeling a little strange down there." Mikan sighed at Naruto and her older brother, unable to understand why she keeps doing that. However, because his own muscles were sore from using the beads. Naruto was lounging in the bath. He covered his eyes with a wet cloth and failed to notice a bright light coming from the tub. "Man, I learned a lot from the scroll so far and still haven't practiced all of it." I managed to make a note of everything in it finally in a book but now. Alright, first thing tomorrow I'll send the scroll back. It's a big help that I made of everything for future reference, but I don't feel right keeping something that belongs to the village. I better make sure to write a note to tell at least Iruka-sensei I'll be okay. After hearing the splash, Naruto reached for something moist, warm, and soft. When he squeezed it and heard a groan, he removed the cloth to reveal a stunning girl with a flawless figure, pink flowing hair, and a tail. She cheerfully said, "Hello." Everyone in the house heard Naruto yell, "Ah," as he grabbed a towel and fled the bathroom when Mikan materialized in front of him. Mikan exclaimed, "Naruto-san." "What happened?" Naruto exclaimed, "There's a freaking girl who popped up in the bath." As soon as Mikan looked, Mikan said, "There's no one there." When she saw that he was only wearing a towel, she blushed so intensely that steam was escaping her head. "Naruto-san, maybe you've been spending a little too much time and please put some clothes on," she said. Rito accompanied Naruto as he ascended slowly to his room during this time. As soon as he opened the door, he said, "Man, I think I better go to sleep." "Hi." A girl sitting in his bed with pink hair and a towel said. As he shut the door, Rito said, "I'm sorry, I must have the wrong room." Naruto appeared perplexed, and Rito glanced at his door and noticed the sign that read, "Rito." She was still there when he opened the door once more. "Ah," Rito exclaimed, startling Naruto. He was pointing to his bed when Naruto and Mikan went upstairs. Naruto exclaimed, "Ah, it's her. That's her. I knew I wasn't crazy." As Mikan was taken aback by the appearance of another stunning and well-endowed girl, her stature was nearly identical to Naruto's. "Hi. Sorry for the scare and I'm borrowing this towel for a minute," she informed them. Mikan said, I'm sorry, but who are you?" She turned and raised her towel slightly, causing Rito and Naruto to become very red and get nosebleeds where Mikan attempted to shield their eyes. "Oh well, my name is Lala Saddlein Deviluka. Oh, by the way, I'm what you guys might call an alien, see?" she said. "Hey, what do you think you're, huh?" Mikan asked, observing that her tail was obviously attached to her spine and had a black heart-shaped tip. When Rito and Naruto were eventually set free, they saw it. Naruto remarked, "Whoa, never seen that before." Rito questioned, "You said you were an alien?" Lala said, "That's right." Naruto questioned, "How and why are you naked in this house?" After revealing it, she said, "Oh well, I used one of my inventions to escape." She exclaimed, "Tada! Pion Pion Warp Kun." Because it resembled a metal bracelet. It can warp me anywhere within a limited distance at a random location. I can't really pinpoint where I go, and it can only transport living things, not artificial, so I had to leave my clothes behind, she clarified. Sounds like a big flaw if you ask me, and isn't that thing artificial, so why did it teleport too? Naruto replied. Well, I'm still working out the kinks, and now I've used it I have to let it recharge for the next 24 hours, and I never thought about that. If it can't teleport living matter, then how come it can teleport too? She said with an expression of contemplation. Mikan said, "Okay, so what are you gonna do now?" Lala sat back down and said, "Well, I'm waiting for someone to meet me here." "Do we just attract weirdness lately or what?" Mikan asked, glancing at her brother. First Naruto-san appears from another world, now an alien is sitting on Rito's bed. Rito said, "No idea." Naruto questioned, "You really think I'm weird?" Then they saw what appeared to be a tiny robot and heard a knock on the window. Lala exclaimed, "Peek," as the tiny robot came in and spoke in a feminine tone. Peek said, "Sorry for the wait, Lala-sama." "What is that?" inquired Rito. "This is Peek. She's an invention I made to be my all-purpose costume robot," she responded. Naruto remarked, "All-purpose costume robot?" Lala remarked, "Here, watch, Peek." Peek shouted, "Right, dress form." As they observed while Naruto and Naruto appeared impressed, Rito and Mikan believed this to be a magical girl transformation. After the transformation was completed, "Is it too tight, Lala-sama?" While Naruto clapped her hands and laughed from the show, Lala responded, "Nope, it's just right," she said to Peek. "So Peek, you made sure you weren't followed, right?" "That's right, there's no way." Before Peek could finish speaking, two black-clad men crashed into Rito's window and leapt into his room. "Peek? Why yes. Geez, Peek, I told you to be careful," Lala yelled as Naruto, Mikan, and Rito were unsure of what to think at the moment, and Naruto was looking perplexed. "When I asked you if you were followed, you said you were sure." Lala sounded like she was about to lose it, which she did, which kind of killed the danger-like mood. Snatching Lala's hand, one of the two exclaimed, "There's no escape this time, princess." As Naruto ran out with Lala in his arms, she yelled, "Let me go," and he jumped in. kicking one of them, and Rito kicked his soccer ball to slow them down before they could pursue them. Naruto was using his ninja speed to jump from roof to roof as quickly as he could because the beads added weight. Oh, never mind them, we gotta go after them. Lala could feel Naruto's arms were powerful and masculine. Regretfully, the assailants were currently as swift as Naruto. One of the men in black remarked, "You're pretty fast for a human." Naruto answered, "It's all part of being a ninja." Lala questioned, "Why are you helping me?" Naruto recalled helping someone when he was younger and remarked, "I just have this habit of helping people." Ya know, he had to leap off after being attacked before he could recall the rest. Lala was in his arms when he lost his balance and fell, landing on his back. They said, "Princess Lala is running away enough." She yelled, "No, you can tell Papa I don't want to meet any more suitors. I want to find my own love." As Naruto heard everything. "You're a princess and you ran away from home?" he responded. As he stood, recalling that Hinata Hyuga was the person he had saved that moment, Naruto remarked, "This is kind of a first, but if I can say something, Hinata was in a similar situation to Lala, but she was being harassed. I don't know much about princesses and whatnot, but I do know if someone wants to follow their own path, then her dad should really respect that, but if you want, then I'm more than happy to fight you guys off," said Naruto. One of the guards said, "Out of the way, kid," Naruto declared. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. While creating more than 100 clones, he did that, shocking both Lala and her father's guards. Every Naruto popped their knuckles and grinned as the guards were being battered and thrashed. They asked, "Still wanna fight, boys?" Lala and Naruto strolled back to the Yuki residence. She said to him, "Sorry for all the trouble, forget about it, but is it really that bad for you at your planet?" he inquired. Since she at least thought Naruto should know the truth, she clarified, "It's planet Deviluk, and no, it's not that bad, but lately father is in the middle of a galactic war with everyone and he's been pushing me to find a suitor." Naruto remarked, "I guess marrying someone you don't know would be a bit weird. He wouldn't know what it would be like to be a shunned orphan his entire life. You know, if you want to stay we can ask Rito and Mikan," he said to her. She questioned, "You sure?" "We'll have to ask and we'll figure out the room situations in the morning since it's pretty late," he stated. Naruto wasn't sure what she meant when she said, "If they let me stay I can solve that problem easily." When they asked Mikan when they got home, she agreed because she was interested in Lala's solution, but she promised to show it to them tomorrow in light of their upcoming house guest. The 5 Yuki family members celebrated Lala Saddle and Deviluk entered their lives in this manner. Everyone was awakening to another lovely morning as the sun shone. The first person to awaken in her room was Mikan, who then woke everyone else. In particular, today of all days Rito's door was knocked on by Mikan. "Hey Rito, it's time to wake up, you need to wake Naruto-san and the others up," she stated to him. She had to open his door because all she could hear was snoring. She was shocked to see Naruto dozing off on Rito, who was still unable to move much but was benefiting from the sleep. From another person's perspective, this would appear to be an incident, but considering Naruto's current situation, it is likely that she slipped away from Naruto and arrived here. Mikan yelled, "Rito, wake up!" as Rito gradually awoke and noticed Naruto's cleavage and sleeping face. Rito exclaimed, "Ah," as Naruto awoke and gave a slight yawn. To indicate that she was waking up, she sat up and made animal noises while scratching her eyes. "What, how?" Rito asked in a panic as Naruto slipped off and nearly fell due to his panicking, but Rito caught her in time, which naturally put him in an awkward position for some reason. When Naruto and Lala emerged from his closet, they thought it was a sex position. Rito was behind her, with his left arm on her chest and his right arm around her waist, and Naruto was making sexual moans, which didn't help his case. As Naruto's overly protective and irate aura consumed him, Lala innocently remarked, "Oh my, I had no idea Rito liked Naruto in that way." Naruto said, sounding irritated, "Rito, you better have a good reason for this." Naruto accepted Mikan's explanation for the time being. "See, calm down Naruto-san, I saw the hole and it was just purely an accident," and he tried to prevent Naruto from falling off the bed. As Naruto sat up and joyfully allowed Rito to pet her head, Mikan questioned, "By the way, why is she here? I thought she was sleeping with you?" Naruto was attempting to consider it. A few things will be clarified by this flashback. This was approximately 4 days ago, the day after Lala moved in. She spent the entire day working on what was allegedly an expansion project for the house. After finishing, she made the decision to flaunt it. "Tada!" she exclaimed. Rito began, but Naruto concluded, "That's Rito's closest." While Naruto was feeling drowsy and leapt onto Rito's bed to take a nap, Naruto, Rito, and Mikan weren't following the logic here. It was his closest, but with the press of a button. Lala pressed the button she fastened to the side of his closet door, and to everyone's amazement, the closet opened into a room the size of Yuki's home. Here it is, exclaimed Lala joyfully. Rito screamed, "What happened to my closet?" "Your closet is still here, it just got switched out with space distortion," replied Lala. Naruto questioned, not fully understanding. Space distortion? It's basically a pocket dimension that now exists within this house. All one has to do is press the button here to switch between Rito's closet and this room. With this, there's now enough room for all of us to sleep inside a room. Lala explained to them. Mikan questioned, "How did you get this done so quickly?" Lala displayed what appeared to be a cell phone and said, "Well, I use space distortion to keep my inventions in here." Rito questioned, "A flip phone?" Lala pressed a button and produced what looked like a wand with devil wings attached to the top. "This is my D-dial. It uses space distortion to keep my inventions here so I can call on them like so, and I use this my all-purpose tool to make the space distortion for this room." Lala demonstrated it to them. This allows to make new inventions or upgrade anything quickly. She stated to them Naruto and Naruto now had their own rooms as a result of all those explanations. Naruto stated, pointing out that Naruto requires constant supervision. "One problem, we can't really let Naruto sleep on her own." Lala asked Naruto, "What do you mean?" Before explaining Naruto's birth circumstances and current situation, Lala said to them, I think I can fix that." Rito and Mikan were wondering how that was possible, but Naruto said, "You can." Perhaps because they were aliens, they had more sophisticated medications. Lala prepared her all-purpose tool for work and said, "Just give me a few days and I'll have it ready." While Naruto was in his room preparing a jutsu to send the scroll back to the Leaf Village, Lala was working in her own laboratory. It should return to the Hokage's office using the same hand signals and formula, but even then, it would probably land a few miles off course because time and space travel frequently have unpredicted outcomes. He pondered how things were as he sent it home and bid his former home a fond farewell in his mind. He must have been gone for nearly 3 weeks by now. The scroll had reached its destination, but it went a little off course and ended up in the room of the person who read Naruto's note and the jutsu he employed. After a few days of the same old routines, we arrive at the night before. Since his sister is unable to sleep on her own, Naruto had her put in his bed. However, he spent the last few nights in a sleeping bag. Naruto was asleep so soundly that he didn't hear or see Naruto creeping away. Naruto stood up using the wall after glancing at the door. She was gradually becoming accustomed to walking and regaining her balance, but she still struggled to stand on her own. Her hand unintentionally touched the button while using the wall, opening Rito's room. When she noticed Rito sleeping, she let out a joyful sound. He became accustomed to the weight of the beads, but his body was too sore to move much. Naruto curling up with Rito for the night makes the rest clear. This puts an end to the flashback. "I guess she snuck off after I fell asleep. For being infant-minded, she can be pretty clever," said Naruto. "Not even capable of understanding, and she already shows signs of a girl in love," Mikan concluded. "There's no need to worry because my invention is ready now," Lala said, guiding them to her lab. She called it Learn Brain-kun, because it was a large machine that had a room chamber where Naruto could sit. "This invention will look up all the brainwaves in the universe that we can give her." Naruto chuckled at how Lala went all out, saying, "Well, she doesn't have to be super smart, she just needs to be smart enough to know and understand things. We still want her to be her own person." "Don't worry, I didn't have much data on other brainwaves, so I mostly had my family background to work with, so it should balance things out for her." Lala responded that everything would be alright. Naruto appeared too afraid to enter when Lala opened the door. Maybe she needs someone to show her it's safe. As Mikan noted, she follows Rito. He glanced down at Naruto and asked, "Me?" Rito entered and said, "Okay, fine." He said anxiously, "Look, Naruto, come." Naruto. He was afraid she would jump him, which she did. Unfortunately, Brain-kun started up as a result of the impact. As Brain-kun got to work, booted up, and locked Rito in with Naruto, Lala exclaimed, "Oh!" Her genetic characteristics and IQ were included in the data and information about the Devolukian family's personality, which were then combined to teach Naruto and shape her brain into what a girl of her age could or would understand. Then there was a ding sound as soon as it opened. Naruto yelled, "Rito? Naruto?" The first response sounded feminine. "Yeah. Yes," said the other, sounding manly. "Hey, I feel different." Naruto was the first to speak. "Naruto. You talked," exclaimed Mikan with joy. While everyone else and Mikan looked at Rito's body in confusion, Naruto said to her, "Huh? What are you talking about, Mikan? I'm Rito." "Naruto?" exclaimed Naruto. "Yes," Rito exclaimed with vigor. Rito remarked, "Naruto-chan feels heavy." "Lala!" yelled Naruto. Lala looked over the data and said, "Whoops, The program was successful. However, the invention's flaw was that it caused a change in their brainwaves during the process. Lala exclaimed. Don't worry, I can fix this. As Brain-kun collapsed, Lala laughed shamefully and said, right after I fix this. Naruto asked, what now? With Naruto and Naruto starting school today, Mikan stated, there's no choice. Rito and Naruto will just have to go to school like this. After Naruto put on his uniform and, with the help of Peak and Lala, Rito, who was in Naruto's body while maintaining his eyes, was all dressed in the girl's uniform. After Mikan persuaded Naruto to put on the boy's uniform, they looked at her as if she were crazy. Naruto appeared to have a somewhat carefree, childlike personality despite her success. When she repeatedly used her name in her sentences rather than me, myself, or I, it seemed a little odd that she was speaking in the third person. It wasn't going well for Naruto to pretend to be Rito, and Rito felt uncomfortable in Naruto's body, but they had to wait until lunch because Lala had promised to have an invention ready by noon in order to get a bra and panties that fit Naruto's size, which wasn't too different from Lala's. Lala placed a brooch in the front of her hair. They also gave her twin a pigtail haircut, which looked good. Fortunately, Rito was in the same class as Naruto and Naruto, which improved the planning. Before she entered to take a seat at Rito's desk, Naruto asked, now, do you understand Naruto? Yes. Naruko-chan must pretend to be Rito Kayun, she exclaimed sweetly. Rito pleaded, can you please not talk like that? Naruko attempted to correct herself, but it was unsuccessful. Oh, Naruko-chan must be Rito Kayun. Okay, maybe you should pretend you can't speak for a while till Lala gets here. Naruto stated to her. The boys slapped their faces because Naruko was still attracting too much attention, and Rito gestured to his desk while she walked in a way that really didn't suit Rito at all. Rito remarked, oh, I guess I gotta talk like her too. Naruto said, well, it won't be so bad as long as one of us can sit near her, it shouldn't be a problem. Naruko remained silent, but her joyful smile persisted. The teacher then arrived, and when Yui called on the class to stand up, Naruto winced. Rito was asked by Naruto, ah, damn it, she's in your class? Kodagawa? Yeah, do you know her? No, it's more like we got off on the wrong foot. He responded. We could hear the students discussing the arrival of 2 new students. Then the instructor invited them inside. As Naruto saw Kodagawa Yui staring him down, the teacher said, please introduce yourself. Naruto began as Rito clumsily introduced himself as Naruko, saying, oh right, ahem, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, and what I like to eat is ramen and training. Since Rito is unsure of Naruko's preferences, he said, my name is Uzumaki Naruko. Naruto concluded the introduction by saying, we're both new to this nation, so we hope you show us the ropes around here. However, the way he said it made everyone assume they were foreigners from another country. The girls enjoyed what they saw when they looked at Naruto, and the boys cheered because he looked so adorable and hot. In order for Rito to at least keep Naruto out of trouble until lunch, the teacher made them sit apart, with Naruto sitting behind Kodagawa and Naruko behind Rito. The lecture was introduced by the instructor. Naruto and Naruko absorbed everything without really taking notes. Despite her vow to Rito to keep quiet, Naruko felt compelled to speak. A tingly, intense urge. Whispering, what's wrong? Rito asked with a hint of fidgeting. Naruko whispered, toilet. Naruto saw the movement when Rito attempted to attract his attention. Naruto got up and yelled, hey. Sensei, I need to use the restroom, and Rito said he'd show me the way there. Swiftly Naruto walked over to Naruko and dragged her out with him, saying, ooh, I knew I shouldn't have had that extra cup of juice for breakfast. Kodagawa was about to object, saying, hey, wait a minute, but they had already left. I guess nobody enjoys history, the instructor grumbled after escorting her to the boys' restroom. Naruto simply sat her down. Naruto thought to himself, phew, man, that was close. Naruto inquired, you okay in there? As Naruto closed her eyes in fear, she answered, Naruko-chan sees something she didn't see before when Naruko-chan was in her body. As he zipped up the pants, Naruto said, you don't need to see that right now, it's just a guy's personal thing. She grumbled, Naruko-chan wanted to see. After they returned to class, things went a little more smoothly until 10 minutes before lunch, when some of the students were shouting about a beautiful girl with pink hair. Rito and Naruto knew only one person who fit that description, so they ran out with Naruko in hand as expected. The seniors are making advances on Lala. Naruto shouted, excuse us coming through, while carrying Lala away while the male students searched for Lala. All 4 reached the roof. Rito shouted, Lala, I thought you said you'd be here at noon? She pulled out a blue, alien-looking ray gun and said, I finished a little earlier that planned and made new invention to switch you two back. As Naruko held herself close to them, Lala said, brain switch Kun. Just stand next to each other and I'll have you two switched back. As a blue beam struck the two, Lala exclaimed, and fire. Rito woke up a minute later and sensed him clutching someone. Naruko blushed joyfully and said in her body, Rito Kaiyun is holding Naruko-chan so lovingly. He shouted, Ga, sorry, and retreated after lunch. Naruto said, I'm glad this situation was resolved. However, the door was kicked open, revealing Kotogawa Yui, who appeared irritated. Oh. Naruto expounded. Rito panicked because he was unsure of how to respond to her call. Okay, it's one thing for new students to run amok, so I tend to give free passes, and Yuki-kun has gotten into you, she yelled. Naruko bowed apologetically, along with Lala, Naruto, and Rito, and explained that Lala had come into the school to give them something. We're so sorry. She informed them, but she's not even a student here. They were all in disbelief when Lala said, Actually I am. Lala's tail fluttered as she exclaimed, I met a man called the principal and he said I can start as early as tomorrow morning. I'm so excited. What kind of cosplay is that? Kotogawa inquired, assuming her tail was a component of her unusual outfit. The class then wanted to learn more about the new students during the lunch break when girls asked Naruko about her interests and other things. She was only 2.5 weeks old and had just adjusted her mind, so she didn't know how to respond until Naruto made up an answer. As everyone in the class began to cry, Naruto said, I'm afraid my sister just came out of coma recently. You see, there was an incident back home where a bolt of lightning struck her and put her in a comatose state, and when she woke up she had no memories of before. The doctors said she may never recover her memories again. Sawada Mio, a girl, wiped away her tears under her glasses and remarked, That's just so sad. Another girl, Momioka Riza, touched Naruko's chest and said, I promise to help with your memories. Ah, moaned Naruko. Startled Kotogawa flushed as Momioka said suggestively, Oh, not bad, I think you may have Yui beat. Momioka, stop that blatant act now, she screamed. Momioka yelled, Don't worry Kotogawa, I'll give you an exam too, while also touching her. Naruko inquired, Did Naruko-chan make a friend? This was how the day continued. Even though the Uzumaki family's first day of school was hectic and a little strange, it was still enjoyable. It was getting late, and Rito assumed he would sleep peacefully at last. He can move around more. A certain person with long blonde hair was standing above Rito in a button-down shirt, preparing to take her customary cuddle spot while he slept. In the late hours of the night, Rito slept on Naruko's chest with ease, suggesting that her passion for him had not diminished. Rito made the decision to attempt something a little daring. On the same evening that Naruko sneaked into her room, she had no underwear on and had thrown off her shirt after unbuttoning it, unaware of what was going on. Naruko slept with her body pressed against Rito's. She encircled her waist with his right arm. She smelled him from the nape of his neck, then muttered. She whispered, Naruko-chan loves Rito-kun so much, and went to sleep soundly until she felt something. She groped her butt a little when she felt his right hand touch it. She groaned a little, trying to be quiet, and then noticed that Rito was still asleep. His left arm, which was positioned between them, reached up and seized her right breast. Yeah. She groaned because of how amazing his groping technique was. In his sleep, Rito muttered, marshmallow. As Rito placed his right hand between her legs and slid a finger into her womanhood, she thought, Naruko-chan is not a marshmallow. She groaned a little louder, but not loud enough for Rito to hear. When she started to breathe heavily and perspire a little, she moaned his name, Rito-kun. Rito then licked her neck, feeling very kind to her. Rito muttered, ice cream. Before licking, Naruko kept her mouth shut as she sensed something approaching and then felt her time coming regretfully. Rito's actions prevented her from having any time to relax. Her legs were wriggling a little, and she moaned, Rito-kun. Then, as if he was still dreaming of ice cream, Rito's face shifted to her lips, where he was merely licking them. Rito's tongue touched and played with Naruko's tongue, tempting her to kiss him, but she refrained from doing so. Rito then began sucking on her tongue, believing he was eating an ice cream bar or a sucker. Naruko let out another, mmmmphm, as she experienced that sensation once more. As she squirted a little more this time, she thought to herself, it's coming again. Naruko-chan is coming again. Rito continued to prevent her from resting by releasing her tongue and returning to her neck. Instinctively, Naruko reached for his boxers with her left hand, and through the opening in each man's panties, she extracted what she was trying to see while inside his body. She muttered, this is Rito Kaiyun's, as she observed how, at first, when Naruko gently stroked it, It responded to her touch even though Rito was still asleep. It's getting harder and bigger, she groaned, going crazy after coming twice in a row. She felt Rito's tongue licking her neck and gradually increased the pace while caressing him. She experienced another climax, but this one was much more intense. Coming, Naruko-chan is coming, she exclaimed as she squirted a lot from her first orgasm and bit into Rito's neck to stop herself from screaming or moaning too loudly and waking everyone at the same time. Rito shot his sperm on Naruko's thigh as she released his neck. Rito muttered, still in a slumber, "Ah, the marshmallow bit me." Naruko passed out and slept next to Rito because she was so tired from everything and her legs were still twitching from coming and having an orgasm. Even though she didn't intend for the entire thing to happen, it was still an incredible experience. Mikan assumed that everyone would still be asleep, so she came in the following morning. She went into Rito's chamber. "Hey, Rito," she said, pausing to notice that Naruko was under the covers. She sighed, thinking that this might be a habit she won't break anytime soon. Then she noticed a smell in the room and peered over Naruko's shoulder to see that Rito's manhood was out of his boxers and she was completely nude under the covers. Mikan exclaimed, "Gah," upon seeing Rito's elephant trunk. "Don't tell me, did they?" She started to envision the most twisted possibilities in her head, such as Rito making Naruko suck him off and doing her in reverse cowgirl, missionary, and dog fashion. She yelled, "I'm too young to be an ant," and woke everyone after Lala and Naruto left the closet. Naruto became alarmed by Lala's nudity and started to get a nosebleed, then noticed that Naruko, who was sleeping beside Rito, was likewise nude. "Not again, Naruko. What's going on?" Rito asked drowsily until he became alarmed by Naruko's presence next to him and exclaimed, "Ah." Before realizing his little Rito was gone, Rito put it away and covered it up, saying, "Eep." Naruto recalled reading about this circumstance in a magazine. "Don't tell me you too." It was a panicky morning for everyone. An hour later, after everyone had cleaned up and changed into their school uniforms, Rito kept saying he was asleep while Naruto and Mikan were questioning their siblings. Naruko answered. Naruko just wanted to sleep with Rito Kayun. Naruto was at a loss for words when he said, "That still doesn't answer if you well you know." Mikan sighed and Naruko asked, not understanding what Naruto was trying to say, "Did what?" "Well, we don't really know how much she knows about what a guy and girl do together, Naruto-san. I think Rito may be telling the truth since he isn't that bold." Naruto nodded with agreement. "As for Naruko-san, I'm surprised she doesn't follow what happens next, but we'll need a moment to sit down and explain." "What follows what?" Lala inquired as she entered, appearing as naive as Naruko. "Yeah, and I think I'm starting to see why she doesn't get it," Naruto said to Mikan, who nodded in agreement. Based on what Naruko had described, the instincts were there, but neither of them understood what it meant. Man, her dad must have given her one hell of a pampered life. Naruto, Rito, Lala, and Naruko packed their bags and headed out. Lala was excited about her first day of school until she realized she had forgotten to lock up her inventions. Then she ran up the stairs and said, "You guys go on ahead, I'll catch up." It was a beautiful day as the three of them walked to school, and Naruto said, "May as well go." "Man, I guess I'll have to be on my guard from now on," he grumbled. "Rito, don't worry," as Naruko joyfully clung to his left arm, Naruto said, "I'll set up a few measures after I try talking to her later." "Seriously, sis, do you have to cling to him so much?" Naruto inquired. She cheerfully answered, "Naruko-chan loves Rito Kayun." Hey, listen, Naruko. Is Naruko loved by Rito-kian?" Naruko asked with assurance. Rito was about to respond, well, when he stumbled and dropped his belongings from his bag. "Rito, are you alright?" Naruto inquired. "I'm alright, proceed before me." Since Naruko didn't want to, Rito told them, "I'll catch up." Naruto respected his decision and pulled Naruko along with him. No. Rito-kyun and Naruko-chan would like to go for a walk together. Rito was able to retrieve all of his belongings, but as he reached for his pen, someone picked it up for him. To his surprise, it was Sairenji Haruna. His longtime crush. Naruko complained as she was dragged by her collar while flailing her arms around. Sairenji?" he screamed in fear. "Oh, Yuki-kun, is this yours?" Haruna inquired. "Are you familiar with my name?" Rito inquired, taken aback because he didn't believe she noticed him even though they were in the same class. "Obviously you were always tending to the garden when I was in middle school," she said. "Even now, you still do it for the high school." Rito was astonished and delighted that Haruna had always taken notice of him, and he started to wonder as his heart started to race. "Sairenji?" Rito yelled. "Yes?" she inquired after a moment of panic. Rito closed his eyes, bowed, and confessed, saying, "FF for a long time I've always," He opened his eyes nervously, and when he looked up, he was shocked to see that Haruna had left because it was getting late and they had to get to school after Riza and Mio had dragged her away instead. He saw Lala, who appeared shocked by the confession and thought it was for her. Lala responded to his misfired confession by saying, I'm sorry Rito, I'm flattered but I've actually fallen for someone else, but I hope we can still be friends. Rito said, now, I'm sure you'll find someone special one day so don't give up, okay? As he walked in shame, Lala tried to lift his spirits by saying, now come on or we'll be late. However, in front of them was Naruto, who had slipped away from Naruto and had arrived on Rito, trying to confess to Haruna before being dragged away by her friends. She was crying because the boy she was in love with had fallen in love with someone else, so she fled Rito. Naruto. When class was about to start and Naruto hadn't arrived, Rito called out, but she continued running while crying uncontrollably. They arrived at class believing she had arrived before them, so Rito sat down at his desk and sighed, feeling bad that Naruto had discovered this. Hey, where is Naruto? Naruto inquired. I'm not sure. As Lala introduced herself, the teacher told them to sit down. Rito responded, I thought she showed up here already. While the teacher was taking roll call, Lala, Rito, and Naruto were worried that perhaps Naruto was stuck in the toilet or had taken the wrong turn to get class. Naruto, along with Lala and Rito, hurried out before receiving permission, saying, hey sensei, I gotta go make sure my sister isn't lost. The teacher complained. As usual, no one seems to like history. After Lala examined each girl's restroom, they went there, but to no avail. Where might she be? Naruto inquired. Lala pulled out her D-dial and summoned a puppy-sized robotic dog, saying, I have just the thing. Sniff sniff Trace-kun. All I need is a scent of Naruto's and Trace-kun will find her no problem, Lala insisted when she called it. To understand how it functions, Naruto remarked, so it's like a ninja hound, since she is a clone of me, she ought to smell like me, right? Naruto inquired. As she had Trace-kun sniff Naruto's palm until it indicated it was prepared to search, Lala responded, similar but different, but it should be enough for Trace-kun to find. Okay Trace-kun. I need to find Naruto. As Trace-kun barked and fled, Lala gave an order that led them out of the school. Naruto said, don't tell me she didn't come to school. While they were looking for Naruto, she was in a park sobbing uncontrollably and feeling heartbroken. When she noticed the time, she got up and said, Naruto-chan should get to school now. Her face was red from all the tears. And Trace-kun was leading them close to the park while barking at a pair of panties that were being dried off and smelled good. Oh no. Naruto-chan was supposed to be there, not underwear. After Lala gave Trace-kun a childlike reprimand, Naruto noticed Naruto emerge from the park. He said, there she is. There you are, Naruto. Why are you out here all the time? He questioned her. Naruto yelled, Oni-sama, but didn't turn to face Rito. She buried her head in her brother's chest and said, Naruto-chan doesn't feel well. She clearly had no intention of attending school, regardless of what transpired. Naruto carried Naruto in a bridal style and returned her to the Yuki residence using his ninja speed, saying, hey, better let me take her home for now and I'll meet you guys there later. What's wrong? I wonder. Lala inquired. On their way back to school, Rito told Lala, it's probably because of me. I see, so you meant to confess to this Sairenji Haruna person and Naruto is sad cause she thought you liked her, Lala summed up. And Rito said, yeah, are you not fond of her? Lala inquired. Well, she's adorable and all, but Sairenji has always appealed to me. I have no idea what to do. As Lala listened and wanted to assist Rito and Naruto, Rito said, I know, I never meant to hurt her like this. She thought that in order to find out how this Haruna person feels about Rito, she should first become friends with her. If she doesn't like Rito, she can support Naruto's feelings, but if she does, she will need to find a solution so that everyone is satisfied. Yes, it's Operation Love Triangle. Excited, she yelled as she dashed back into the school. What's the next operation? Rito asked as he didn't hear all of that. This was gonna be a long day. Naruto was now in her bed under covers feeling depressed as despite Rito like Sairenji Haruna, her heart still longed for Rito to the point it just hurt and she cried again till she just fell asleep. Naruto felt bad he had to leave, but he had to at least say Naruto was taking a sick day. At this time another girl in love was as depressed as Naruto. This girl was Hyuga Hinata, who had taken Naruto's disappearance the hardest after witnessing it and felt even more depressed about the fact they declared him dead, and even worse was how she saw a lot of the villagers celebrating the monster was finally gone as they said. Hinata had been such a shell of her old self that the pain from her training didn't even bother her anymore. Her little sister Hanabi, while recently acting distant, kept watch over sister since she witnessed the disappearance too. She knew her father and the elders won't help her since they gave up on her. Big sister, I'll keep you safe. As she was called out to train once more, she whispered, just stay strong for me. However, Hinata had a secret. The scroll Naruto sent back contained a note in his handwriting, and she discovered the jutsu he used before reporting that it appeared in her room, appearing to be in her depressed state. She read the formula and studied the jutsu until she was finally strong enough to use it. Tomorrow everything will be prepared. Tomorrow, determined to track him down and demonstrate his survival, she told herself, I'm going to find you, Naruto-kun. Nearly every villager in the Hidden Leaf Village was relieved that Naruto was no longer a problem. The third Hokage felt horrible. Kakashi felt that he had failed to protect his sensei's child. And Tucci and his daughter Iyame were sad that a young boy had vanished in the Hyuga compound. Hanabi had just completed her training. Even though the elders would see this as a weakness, she was going to play with her big sister in the hopes of getting her back on her door when she heard noises in her room that sounded like she was reading something. This is it. Once I do this, there's no turning back. Goodbye to everyone present. When Hanabi heard Hinata say, I'm sorry I have to leave Hanabi behind, she became terrified and started crying because she thought her sister was going to kill herself. Oni-sama. Hanabi cried out as she tried to open the door, but it was completely locked up. Hinata continued her preparations despite Hanabi banging the door and calling her out. Oni-sama. Please, she cried again, trying to think of something. She ran out to get help. She then saw Neji and one of his teammates training. Neji. You must assist, please. I believe Oni-sama will commit suicide. Neji turned away, but Tenten was startled because she could see Hanabi had been running in a panic. I don't care about it. It simply means that you are granted uncontested leadership of the clan, Neji said. I don't care what happens to her, and turned to leave. Neji. Tenten called, but he kept walking. Come on. Tenten yelled as she followed Hanabi to Hinata's room. Hey. Hello. Hinata. Get out. We now turn our attention to Seinen at the Yuki house where Naruto had just left Narik. Tenten banged on the door, hoping that Hanabi was exaggerating or misinterpreting something. But the part about the door being completely locked up was true. Get back, she told Hanabi as she pulled out a scroll, called out a giant mace, and smashed the door open. They ran in as Hinata finished the jutsu, and as they jumped her, the same light that took Naruto, and many of the sisters and Tenten were gone. Look sis, I know you're hurt and well, I can't claim to know what you're feeling, but Naruto began. Under the covers, Naruko said, just go away. She didn't feel like talking to anyone, and the only times she left the house were to use the restroom and eat something for the past day and a half. Lala spent time with Haruna, trying to get to know her. She can tell that she likes Rito, but she's not very good at being honest about it, so this made Lala try to think of a way to make Haruna and Naruko happy, but it would require Naruko to get back on her feet. Are you still silent? Mikan inquired. No, Lala was wearing a dark blue sleeveless shirt with a white button shirt with a knot tied at the bottom around her stomach, and she was wearing tan brown shorts, Naruto said, scratching his head. She's pretty upset. Rito was also at a loss for words, so he mostly concentrated on his studies and his garden to keep his mind busy, even for a short while. Well, Earth has very strict regulations. Why is Rito unable to simply make Naruko and Haruna happy? She questioned herself. You know, I've read about how some ninjas back home have more than wife to preserve their bloodline, so I wonder about that too. Naruto and Lala sat and thought about it while Mikan looked at both of them and sighed because neither of them had any common sense about what most of society considers normal. They passed the day while Naruto tried to complete his and Naruko's homework, and Lala completed most of it rather quickly, demonstrating that despite her innocent and childlike personality, she was a genius with the highest IQ the galaxy has ever known. Thus, for the sake of Naruko and Naruto, she assisted him somewhat. As her breasts pressed against his left arm, Lala explained, next you have this number, go here, then you round the number up if it's 5 or higher. Naruto blushed, felt blood rush to his head and manhood, and noticed that she was not wearing a bra underneath her clothing. His heart was also racing at the moment. Oh no, this is the cutest girl I've ever dated. Now what do I do? Since Lala doesn't seem to be aware of what's happening, Naruto became anxious and wasn't sure whether to approach or ignore it. Pay attention to this homework assignment. Just concentrate, Naruto told himself. Is everything all right? She inquired. Oh, indeed. Completely okay. As the sun began to set on Seinen, a man with blue eyes and grayish hair, dressed in a cape and armor resembling that of a demon, stood atop a building. He told her as he began writing down answers quickly. This is where the princess was last seen. All I need to do is keep an eye out for her, he said as he leapt down and started his search. At this point, Naruto was walking with Lala because it was their turn to buy groceries for Mikan, and since they were unemployed freeloaders who had just started school, they really couldn't argue back. Naruto carried a few of the bags while Lala had more and showed off her superhuman strength, making Naruto feel a little weak in comparison to Lala at the moment. Halfway there, Lala was humming a cheerful song. "I've located you at last, princess. It's time for you to return home," he declared. "Zaston?" Lala yelled. "Who?" Naruto inquired. "He is a very skilled swordsman and serves as my personal royal guard. He's come to take me back," Lala said. "Actually one of the best Deviluk has to offer." "Please give up resisting," Zaston informed her. "If you want to be the next queen, you need to meet your suitors to find a husband." Lala had no trouble accepting the role, but she couldn't stand meeting men who didn't even care about her or those around them. She gave it some thought, and although this wasn't how she had intended to confess, the situation truly compelled her to do so. "You can then stop there." As she put the groceries down, she informed him, "I have decided to make this person my fiancé." Naruto was so shocked to learn that he had dropped the bags and yelled, so Lala spoke with confidence. "Eh?" he shouted. "You decided to make this boy your fiancé?" Zaston questioned Lala. "You're correct. His soul is pure and innocent, his heart is strong and courageous, and he puts the needs of others before his own." As she made her way to Naruto, she said to Zaston, "I'm sorry for putting this on you, but there isn't anyone better for me to choose as my fiancé. However, Naruto, you have truly captured my heart." Naruto was stunned as she smiled and said, "I wouldn't mind taking things slowly, but my father isn't really known to be patient." "Not so quick, princess." As he produced the laser blade, Zaston remarked, "I have to find out for myself if he is deserving of you." "Lala, I don't know if I can reply to your feelings right now, but I will do what I can to help you," Naruto told her as he stepped forward to face Zaston and revealed summoning seals written on his wrist and summoned throwing knives and a dagger, a belt with the few shuriken and kunai he had on him when he arrived to this world. The first two items were improvised since a ninja is expected to adapt to his environment. Well, maybe that last one was a made-up rule by Naruto. Naruto charged in and threw the knives, but Zaston's sword cut through them like butter. Naruto slid under the blade to deliver a punch to Zaston's stomach, but the armor took most of the blow, so it didn't faze him as much. "Ow," Naruto said as he shook his hand. "Punching metal can really hurt if you don't train for it." Zaston then charged at him as Naruto dodged as fast as he could, but once again the bead slowed him down and Naruto received a few cuts to his arms and chest. Naruto ripped off his shirt as he and Zaston had a stare down. Naruto grabbed some shurikens to throw, then formed hand signs. Shadow clone shurikens. Zaston blocked the few shurikens by spinning his sword in front of him as they grew to hundreds. After blocking the last one, Zaston charged at Naruto, saying, "I see you have tricks." Naruto attempted to use his kunai to block, but metal simply cannot withstand a laser blade that can cut through almost anything. His kunai was pierced through when he was stabbed in the chest, but it was not deep or fatal because he reacted and kicked Zaston away, and Naruto pushed himself away. As a result, Naruto noticed that he was losing a lot of blood from his cuts and light stabs, but he was either fortunate or Zaston hadn't even tried yet. "Clone jutsu with multiple shades," Naruto yelled as he then had 100 clones assisting as they all charged at Zaston from all directions. Unlike the last two guards, Zaston didn't flinch as he demonstrated his skills as a veteran warrior and why he was picked to protect the princess during the king and queen's absence. With quick reaction, he punched the first few, then kicked a couple others, followed by slashes from his sword. This process is repeatedly done as we see it all happen from a spinning camera action, and we hear hitting and cutting sound effects for dramatic effect. And the last two clones standing did a slide and jump maneuver where one slid and went for his legs and the other would jump and punch him in the face. This is where the slow motion effect is played as Zaston jumped above them and threw his sword at the clones and pierced them both. Now there was just Naruto himself left, but he was already prepped and jumped behind Zaston and grabbed him and used all his strength to pile drive Zaston's head into the ground, but being a Devilukian, his physical strength overcame Naruto's and broke free and kicked him down to the ground. "Naruto!" Lala yelled, and Naruto slowly rose again. As the dust settled, he was lying on his right knee, panting and exhausted, and it took a long time for his beads to turn from white to silver, weighing 4 times his own weight. Zaston picked up his sword as he approached Naruto, who said, "Crap, not now." Naruto was exhausted, had cuts, and his beads had chosen a bad moment to announce that he had progressed to the next level of his training by weighing 4 times his actual weight. "It's finished, you fought hard. This concludes now," he declared. "Damn it, is this all I have? Come on, I need to be able to do more." Naruto screamed as he searched for a power surge and unconsciously activated a kind of power that even he was unaware he possessed. Chains made of the surge of extra chakra that he sensed approaching Zaston emerged from his body. What? His arms and legs were bound, and despite his physical strength, he was unable to free himself from the chains that encircled and restrained him. Naruto attempted to stand up, but he was already exhausted. A familiar bright light appeared above Zaston and Naruto before he could finish saying, "I don't know how I'm doing this, but I'm ending this right." 3 screams were heard as 3 people fell on top of Zaston, knocking him out. 3 of them were girls, and the chains vanished. Now? Oh my, one of them had brown hair and a Chinese bun in her hairstyle, and her Chinese shirt was too tight on her chest and too small for her. In fact, all 3 of these girls wore clothes that were too small for their ages. The first one had blue hair that was mid-length to just below her shoulders, and her jacket was unusually tight on her chest. The third girl appeared to be Mikan's age, with her mid-length brown hair and white eyes. They looked around when the blue-haired girl spotted a face she recognized all too well. "Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun," she exclaimed as she leapt over him. "I was aware of your survival. I was aware of it," as she sobbed joyfully. Naruto finally had a clear view of her face and recognized it. "Hinata. Is that you?" did he ask. "What are you saying?" she asked because, for a brief moment, the idea of actually finding him made her forget her shyness. Hanabi glanced at Naruto and gave him a slight glare before realizing he had a point. Her sister did not look the same. She considered this as she crawled over to the nearby riverbed and examined her reflection. "Oni-sama. Take a look at your image," she shouted, and Hinata followed, but she couldn't figure out why her clothes felt so small now. Tenten followed, and they were in a panic as they looked at themselves and realized they had completely aged and grown taller and slightly bigger in some places. "Just relax, please." As they stared at him, Naruto tried to explain, but Hinata saw that he had also changed and appeared much more manly than he had actually been. "This truly is NN Naruto-kun," she shouted as she became very red and fainted. After processing, she simply leapt, embraced him, and sobbed into his chest. "Oni-sama." Hanabi then gave the offender a fierce look. "Simply relax, I didn't do anything." When Hanabi lunged at Naruto and began beating him, he defended himself, but Lala grabbed Hanabi and held her back without any issues. Now nothing is resolved by violence," she said. "Let's all calm down," not even realizing that it sounded a little hypocritical given that she had allowed Naruto and Zaston to fight. "Peak. Please assist them with their clothing," Lala commanded. Indeed, Lala-sama. Tenten and Hanabi were startled to hear Peak's hairpiece talking as it extended tendrils to adjust their clothing to a more appropriate length. Tenten breathed easier and said, "Phew, that's much better." Hanabi noticed that the girl's boobs were roughly the same size as Hinata's after she calmed down and turned to face this odd pink-haired girl. "But why do you not wear a bra?" she inquired. "Well," as Naruto had a nosebleed, she responded, "Oh, I find them to be really uncomfortably, so I don't really wear them since Peak keeps my clothes just right." "If you're all friends of Naruto, why don't we all go back home so we talk about this?" They agreed, and Naruto carried an unconscious Hinata as they left, with Hanabi and Tenten helping to carry the bags. When they arrived at the house, Mikan was shocked to see 3 more mouths to feed, and Naruto appeared battered. They all started to get ready to eat, but Lala felt as though they had forgotten something crucial, and we now see Zaston still unconscious by the riverbed, drifting to sleep in that same spot for the entire evening. In the following morning, the Yuki house had 3 more people living in it. At this rate, their food supply would go out quicker than it already did. 3 more of the rooms Lala had set in there when she made the spatial distortion for there to literally be another house within the house was well thought out. Since in total there are about 9 rooms, the first 4 on the first floor of it and the other 5 up the stairs. Alien technology at its best with the greatest genius the galaxy had to offer. Things were explained as best as Naruto could explain it, and the fact these 3 girls had a similar situation as Naruto left no room for doubt that Naruto really did come from another world. When Hanabi asked how they can go home, there were 2 problems with that already. One was that Naruto made it a point to forget the jutsu, and Hinata had it modified to be a one-way trip, so using it again would just bring them back at a different location. Lala then contemplated and came up with a theory about some of this. "All right. Let's start with how you got here. Traveling across time and space has been the subject of numerous theories. These 2 phenomena are part of the idea of a world, and even with spaceship technology, it is already feasible to accomplish that with warp drive engines, which allow them to travel through space. Anything organic would be impacted if time were taken into account as an additional factor," she explained. "Exactly what does all that mean?" Naruto inquired. "Well, the fact that time was accelerated for you guys until you arrived at your destination is what caused you to age as much as you did. It's possible that you guys traveled to the beginning of the Earth and witnessed millions of years of its history without even realizing it, or that the basic knowledge you acquired upon arriving here was a result of the jutsu. As she drew a chart to illustrate the process using a hologram board and a technological-looking stick, Lala explained, "It's not proven, but it is a possibility one of those two outcomes cause you guys to at least understand how most of things here on Earth work. If that description helps, the screens resemble those in the Iron Man movies. It'd probably be better not to use it again anyway," Lala said. "Why not?" Hanabi inquired. "Well, it's likely you guys had the added benefit of your spiritual energy or chakra as you call it granting you extra protection for that first trip, but it's hard to say how much of an effect this will have on you guys if you return home without proper protection," Lala responded. "Example," Tenten said, pointing to one with her hand. "All right, so you get home, but aging happens even more quickly than it used to. You could wind up home as old folks in their 70s, Lala retorted. The idea was enough to make Tenten shudder because she did not want to age any faster than she already had after the lengthy argument. They would not go back home, much to Hanabi's dismay because she no longer had her clan responsibilities to put pressure on her. Her sister Hinata was happy to have found Naruto, but she ended up dragging her sister and her cousin's teammate along for the ride. Hinata repeatedly apologized to Hanabi, who was crying. "I'm just relieved that you didn't have any death plans," Hanabi told her. "I never knew Mother and you're all I have to help me know her." As Hinata returned the hug, realizing she hadn't given it enough thought, the two sisters reconciled and were at last opening up again, with Lala shedding dramatic tears. "Whoa, that is really lovely. I wish I had my sisters to hug like that right now." Lala cried over dramatically, thinking this was such a beautiful family moment and could relate to Hinata as an older sister as she then blew her nose with a tissue. After that we now come to the present moment as we see Hinata sleeping with Hanabi. Something they haven't done for a long time when they were younger. Naruto didn't get much sleep since 1. Naruto is still depressed, 2. Lala basically proposed and confessed, and lastly a girl he tried to save as a kid goes to all this trouble to find him cause she actually cared about him over those who made his life a living hell. Kinda made him wish he had hung around her a bit more during school, but the adults seem to have ways of telling kids to stay away from him or keep them away from him. Then there's those chains that came out of him and that surge of extra chakra he didn't even know he had. He decided to step out early today for some training and maybe figure out what was what with him. Naruto left a note he'd meet them at school. Everyone else woke up to enjoy breakfast and Lala noted how Hinata acted with Naruto, as did Hinata notice Lala. "Well, Lala-san, may I have a brief conversation with you?" Lala grinned as Hinata asked. "Yes." They both went outside to converse, and they were standing there. Lala-san, yes?" Lala inquired. "Do you like Naruto-kun?" Shyly, she asked. "Yes, do you also like him, Hinata?" Hinata blushed as Lala asked, but there was something about Lala that made her want to give an honest response. "Yeah, I was previously saved by Naruto-kun, who taught me that I should never give up and that I should always try. I wanted to try to change myself because of him," Hinata replied. "I suppose it just got worse from there." Lala did something unexpected, and she was hugged. "Lala-san? That is truly incredible. He saves us both, and we both like him for the same reasons," Lala remarked. "I knew you were a good person." Hinata was still perplexed by this response. "What are you saying? Sincerely, I thought you would try to stop me," she said. "No, because if I have Naruto as my fiancé, he'll be king of Deviluk, which makes him king of the entire universe, and he'll be allowed to be married to multiple women," Lala cheerfully explained. Hinata was aware of the Clan Restoration Act, a rule in ninja villages that allowed for the continuation of specific bloodlines. But I don't know if Naruto-kun will even." Hinata was uncertain primarily because she didn't know if Naruto would feel the same way, but Lala touched Hinata's shoulders. "Don't worry, together, we'll open Naruto's heart and support one another's emotions. It's going to work out," Lala told her, and the assurance in her eyes gave Hinata some hope and confidence, and the two became friends. Naruto overheard all of that and decided to take a walk to decompress because she's been causing trouble for everyone. Naruto was training at an abandoned building site in an attempt to master the beads and call out his chakra chains, but so far, he hasn't been successful. "Well, perhaps I should just consider how I was feeling at the time," Naruto remarked as he realized the time. As he was leaving, he ran into a tall, attractive woman with pink hair. As he was leaving, she was wearing a dress that was elegant and white, with a white cape attached to the chest piece that went around her shoulders. She had a veil covering her face, and her chest was the perfect size. She resembled the ideal woman. "Oh, I'm sorry, I should have looked where I was going." "Oh, it's quite all right," she said, examining Naruto as though he were being studied. "You have a kind soul but a heart that carries many scars and worries," she concluded. Naruto exclaimed, "Are you psychic or something?" She sighed after responding, "No, I just have a way of reading people." She then saw some men wishing to do perverted things to her. She said, "It really is a crime to be beautiful." Naruto thought that last statement kind of destroyed her current reputation. They stopped and acted like gentlemen as they said their goodbyes and apologies, and she told them, "You men should not indulge in such vulgar acts. You should be doing what you can to help your fellow man." "How did?" she questioned him. "Now then, what were you doing out here?" He said, well, I was just training." "For what?" she questioned him. "Well, I'm protecting someone right now, and some people from my old home. Only one of them confessed to me, and I think another one might like me, but I don't know what to do, so all I can do is train and get stronger to protect them," replied Naruto. She said to him, "I see. Are these people precious to you?" He said to her, "I guess their strength comes in many forms, but it's when you have someone truly precious to you, it is only that time that your real strength will reveal itself. I think once you figure it out you will become strong, very strong," she said to him as she stroked his head. When Naruto realized he would be late, she said, "I should be going now," and turned to leave. Not far from there, Naruko strolled around in her school uniform, unsure of how to handle Rito. Then she let out a sigh. When Naruko looked up and saw the woman Naruto had just spoken to, she thought to herself, "Naruko-chan doesn't know what to do." She said to Naruko, "Oh, well, isn't this a surprise?" "Huh?" asked Naruko. "Well, I just met young man with whisker marks like those. Are you perhaps related?" she inquired. Naruko said, "Oni-sama." As they sat down together, she remarked, "Ah, I see, so that's your brother. You seem troubled though." Naruko didn't know what the issue was, but this woman seemed genuinely interested in helping her, so she asked, "What seems to be the problem?" She answered, "Naruko-chan isn't sure what to do." "About what?" "Naruko-chan loves Rito-kyun, but Naruko-chan found out Rito-kyun is in love with someone else. Naruko-chan thinks she should move on, but it's really painful every time Naruko-chan thinks of Rito-kyun. Naruko-chan gets happy and her heart beats faster," she clarified. "I see. Being in love can be a bit hard, especially when a girl is truly in love with someone. I can't say I have the right answer to help you, since in a situation like this you must find the answer for yourself. If you truly love this Rito person and want to be with him no matter what, I think it's important he understands your feelings. If you want to be with him even if he has heart for someone else first, then you must be sure that's what you want," the woman replied. Naruko answered, "Naruko-chan doesn't understand." To Naruko's surprise, the woman kissed her forehead and said, "It's all right. Something tells me you'll overcome this and be a stronger person for it." Eh? Naruko blushed a little and was shocked to receive a kiss on her forehead. She couldn't quite put her feelings into words. She has witnessed mothers abusing their children on television. She pondered whether talking to a mother would be like this. Under her veil, she smiled and said, "Well, I should be going. I know certain people will begin to wonder where I am." She questioned, "Will Naruko-chan see you again?" "Don't worry, it may be a while from now, but we will meet again," she assured her. She informed her, "Naruko-chan doesn't know your name." The woman laughed a little. As she left for her destination, she answered, "It's Sephi." As she considered the situation, Naruko was certain that she would never forget this encounter. She rushed off to school after making her decision because she loved Rito so much. Even though she couldn't be his first, she seemed to benefit greatly from the conversation with Sephi. Everyone else went to school. Satenten, Hinata, and Hanabi were left to watch the Yuki house without giving it much thought. Naruko was actually a ninja who was scurrying from roof to roof in search of Rito, who was then seen strolling alongside Lala. "Rito Kyuun," she exclaimed as Rito raised his head. Rito screamed, "Naruko! Ga!" as Naruko fell on top of him. Rito's hands were on her butt, and Naruko's index and middle fingers went under her panties as he hugged her into her breasts, oblivious to the fact that her panties were visible. "Oh my!" Lala exclaimed. Rito tried to say, "MMMMPH," but Naruko's breasts covered her face. "Rito-kyun, Naruko-chan is so sorry she ignored you. Naruko-chan loves Rito-kyun so much and wants to stay with him forever. Naruko-chan doesn't care if she's Rito-kyun's first or second. As long as Naruko-chan can stay with Rito-kyun, then Naruko-chan will be happy." Naruko admitted while crying a little for each phrase. After hearing everything, Rito was unsure of what to say, but his manhood prodded Naruko before he could say anything to Rito's protruding manhood. Naruko said, "Oh, hello there." Lala grinned because it appeared that things had returned to normal since they were going to be late. Lala then pulled her off. Because she wants everyone to be happy, Lala thought to herself, "Naruko, keep doing your best. When I become queen, I'll make a law that lets you and Haruna be together with Rito." All Haruna needed to do now was confess, and everything would work itself out later. Everyone was relieved that Naruko was alright as things returned to normal. Mio, Riza, and Haruna spent time with Naruto and Lala talking. Though Riza paused to touch them all however, Riza had to ask Lala and Naruto what they thought was the secret to their figures. Lala's honest response was, well, no matter how much I eat, I don't really gain any weight. Given that her figure was based on Naruto's jutsu, it was accurate to say that Naruto-chan is not sure. As she touched Naruto once more, Riza remarked, I think I might be jealous. I bet a lot of guys are turned on by these beauties. Turned on? Was beyond Naruto's comprehension. Oh no, your memory loss has even made you forget those life lessons? Well, I think a night with me will help you remember, Riza replied with a smile. Our Riza-chan. That's too much, exclaimed Haruna. The school day proceeded rather routinely. Sefi has just arrived at a group of Devolukian security personnel during the school day. They bowed to her and said, Your Highness, where is the princess? She told Zaston, who was on board the ship, there's no need to worry. I think Lala will be just fine here. Zaston, please tell Gid that our daughter has found herself a suitor. Yes ma'am, but what do we tell the other suitors? A lot of them will not be pleased with this outcome, Zaston replied. She responded, that's why you will stay here and make sure they don't cause too much trouble. I'm sure Gid will want someone to keep an eye things. Given Devoluk's reputation for uniting and conquering nearly every planet, Sefi is none other than the queen of Devoluk and the universe. Sefi is regarded as the galaxy's most attractive woman. She goes by Sefi Michaela Devoluk in full. Hey, don't break the fourth wall. We have a story to share. It really is a crime to be too beautiful. Sorry. Zaston asked himself, who is she talking to? Because, like her daughters, the queen had peculiar habits. After everything had calmed down, we returned to the Yuki residence. It was Naruto's turn. In the rear, he covered his face with a washcloth once more, not even realizing that the entire bathroom had suddenly grown to the size of a pool while she and Hinata were wrapped in towels. Lala used one of her inventions to accomplish this. Hinata said to Lala, I'm not sure if I can handle this. As Lala jumped, she consoled her, saying, it'll be fine, just be brave. Yahoo! Lala surprised Naruto by leaping in and grabbing his left side. Naruto cried out, Lala. Though the mere prospect of being close to Naruto was enough to make Hinata faint, she shook off the nausea and walked over to take his right side. Hinata remained silent and kept close. Both of these girls are nude, with his arms between their enormous breasts. Lala said, well, isn't this nice, Naruto? Hinata questioned, are we troubling you, Naruto-kun? As Naruto began to lose his temper and then developed a severe nosebleed. Ah, Naruto-kun. Naruto was unconscious when Lala asked, Naruto, are you okay? Naruto was back to her usual routine of being near Rito in another area of the house. Rito screamed, Naruto, you're too close, in fear. Rito-kun, exclaimed Naruto joyfully. Hanabi and Tenten thought this was strange. Mikan was just doing the dishes when Tenten asked, is it like this every day? Mikan responded, for the most part yes. Hearing the commotion, Hanabi turned to face the restroom and pondered whether Naruto was truly worth her sister's time. She would simply observe him for the time being to ascertain that fact. Tenten and Hanabi considered Mikan's suggestion, but for the time being they just enjoyed the evening at home. If you three are stuck here, why not sign up for school? Hanabi can go with me and you and Hinata-san can sign up at the high school. They start their first day of school approximately a week after Hinata, Hanabi, and Tenten arrive. Hanabi felt uneasy although she was very diligent at the Ninja Academy and the language and writing aren't all that different here. Something about this was really unsettling for her. Fortunately, it wasn't too bad because she was scheduled to be in Mikan's class. The teacher gestured for Hanabi to come in, and as she did, we saw her wearing some clothes that Lala had Pete make for her until they could find a way to make enough money to buy their own clothes. Hanabi wore black pants and a yellow button-up shirt over her basic shirt. Hanabi bowed and said, hello, my name is Hanabi Hyuga. As her new classmates gazed at her and immediately noted her eyes, she said, I just moved into town with my big sister. A student inquired, are you blind? No, my eyes. Hanabi then used the narrative that everyone had agreed upon, remembering to keep things under wraps for the time being. Or from a family trait since I was born in Hokkaido. She instructed them to try to convince them that her eyes were merely an ancient, foreign genetic trait. Fortunately, they were able to purchase it with ease because they thought her eyes were a special quality. The teacher said to Hanabi, okay, why don't you sit next to Miss Yuki? Hanabi sat beside Mikan and said, yes, ma'am. Tenten, who is a year older than Naruto, was in the junior year class at Seinen High. She was born in Hong Kong, China, but spent the majority of her childhood in Japan after the age of 5. According to her backstory, the principal found Hinata and Tenten attractive, so he didn't care that this seemed plausible enough regarding Hinata. Hinata bowed respectfully and said, Good morning, my name is Hinata Hyuga. I just moved here to sign in. I hope you will all look after me well. The boys, along with Riza and Mio, cheered because Hinata looked so cute. However, Riza groped Hinata's breasts and attacked her without warning before she could sit down. Huh? As the boys began to bleed from the news, Riza remarked suggestively, "Oh, about the same proportions as Lala Kai, only about as shy as Haruna." Momioka. Stop being indecent to the new student, shouted Kodagawa. Riza sat down again. After she did so, Kodagawa expressed her sincere regret, saying, "I am so sorry that happened." Hinata answered, It's fine, she just surprised me." Hinata sat behind Kodagawa as they took their seats. Naruto had to concede that Hinata looked adorable in the seinen female uniform. Tenten saw a girl in her class who had golden brown eyes, drill-like curls in her golden blonde hair, and appeared to be thinking about something. She was seated next to two other female students. One girl wore glasses and had blue hair and purple eyes, while the other girl, who had brown eyes and long brown hair pulled back in a ponytail with a blue scrunchie, appeared to be quite disciplined. These three were Ayako Fujisaki, who goes by Aya most of the time, Rinkuju, and Sake Tenjuin. What was Sake thinking about? Well, she was in a difficult situation. Since recent kidnappings and other incidents were at an all-time high, her father believed that Rin alone might not provide enough security. Since Aya is not a trained bodyguard, she was being forced to stop hanging around her. Instead, she promised her father that by the end of the week, she would find at least two more who are as skilled as Rin. All of her preparations are scheduled to start in just 2 hours, and she started her plan precisely at lunchtime, making everyone aware that the self-proclaimed queen had arrived. Ho ho hoo hoo, attention students of Seinen Academy. I, your beloved queen Sake Tenjuin, am about to present you with an opportunity. I am in need of 2 new bodyguards to help my already impressive bodyguard Rinkuju with her duties. Naturally, for those who get the position will be paid for their services. All judging will be done by myself, Rin, and Aya. Of course all are welcome to compete. Sake exclaimed through a microphone on a stage that she wore a swimsuit as if to entice everyone with her body and let them what they would be protecting as the students rushed for the opportunity. This naturally attracted a lot of attention, most for the money, but some for the possibility of developing a romantic relationship or having sex with Sake in her bedroom. Everyone, settle down. You will first sign these forms to give us your basic information and skill sets. We will begin the interview in half an hour. After that, the remaining people will compete in a special tournament and the best 2 will be her new bodyguards. Rin screamed. Kodagawa attempted to stop it, but regrettably the principal gave his approval, and all he received in return were pictures of Sake working as a swimsuit model. Tenten went to Naruto and Hinata and requested some extras. She said, "What do you think?" Naruto thought it might work out and remarked, "It does sound up our alley, and we do need money since we're just freeloading." "I can't." Mio-san said she knows a place I can work at, and Lala said she'd go too. Hinata informed them. Since this event would take up the remainder of the school day, Hinata left to meet up with Lala and the others. Naruto responded, "Oh, okay, then we'll get a start with this since it sounds like she'll be paying a lot." The interviews came first. Interviews were conducted by Rin. Rin asked the first male student, "Why should you get the job?" He said, "I can take lots of pictures and get the scoop on people." He then displayed a photo of Rin getting dressed, in which she used a wooden sword to send him flying. Next, she screamed in shame when the next one rolled around. He was limited to using his baseball skills. Rin shouted, "Next." The third performed puppetry. She shouted, "Next." As the list of rejections continued until Tenten's turn came, she said, "Aren't you the new student?" Tenten retorted, "You said anyone can apply." "That we did. Okay, so what skill sets do you have?" To prove it, Tenten brought ninja scrolls and called forth a kunai. "Well, I'm actually a weapons master and I can summon ninja tools with this." Both that and the fact that she mentioned ninja were disregarded by Rin. Tenten threw the kunai at a mosquito that was about to land on Sake after Rin asked, "How good are you with those?" Rin noticed what she struck when Rin eventually passed one. She said, "Okay, you're in." "Now next," Rin exclaimed, making Tenten sit beside them. Then Naruto approached. "Hi," he exclaimed. Rin questioned him, "What makes you think you're qualified for this job?" Rin thought his response was sufficient to fail him, so Naruto asked, "You mean besides being a great ass kicker with jutsus under my belt?" Tenten continued, "I can actually vouch for him." She was partially correct because she had witnessed him train all week the previous week. Rin drew her sword and charged at him, saying, "Then let's test that." Naruto ducked and pulled a kunai from his pocket. This was noticed by Kodagawa. As Naruto blocked her blade and her attacks until he was able to get behind her and poke his kunai to her back, she screamed, How the hell did he hide that without us noticing? She asked herself. How? His question was, do I pass? Rin detected no malice or evil intent. She put away her sword and carried on with more interviews, saying, for now, 8 people were ultimately chosen, 6 more of whom had the potential to serve as Saki's bodyguards. As Saki assumed her role where she would be kidnapped, Aya informed them, now for the more exciting part of the tournament. Tenjuan family employees will now pretend to be enemies who are determined to harm Lady Saki. Your mission is to portray her in any way you see fit, cooperate or compete with one another, but in the end, only 2 of you will be selected for this honor. Prepare carefully. Some of the alleged employees were rendered unconscious during this preparation period in order to replace them and actually abduct Saki. Naruto suggested to Tenten that since they both needed the job and it might improve their chances, okay, since we both need this job, why don't we try to work together on this one? While they were organizing their defense, Tenten said, okay, so I'll watch from the rear at a high point and you and your shadow clones can cover her at a close distance. At that moment, they heard Saki scream from her location. They then witnessed Saki being abducted while she was bound and gagged. Did they start already? They asked. Tenten concurred, and Naruto remarked, wow, she's really going all out to make this as real as possible. Tenten is attempting to comprehend the situation because neither she nor Naruto realized that this was a true kidnapping. Maybe this was a way so as to catch us off guard since kidnappings can happen at any time. As they took off, Naruto said, okay, change of plans. I'll go after them, you knock them out with some long-range weapons. Tenten ran up onto the roof and called forth a bow and arrows, the arrows encircling a small sandbag that had been painted red. These arrows hurt a lot if you get hit, but they are primarily used for practice so she doesn't accidentally kill anyone. The weight of the sand helps her practice her aim, so weight and wind changes wouldn't be a problem. It's kind of like getting punched really hard. Tenten tapped that first arrow for good fortune before loading her bow and saying, ready. As he watched them get ready for a jump, Naruto said, set. Both shouted, go. As Naruto seized Saki, one of the men exclaimed, hey. As Tenten continued to fire and struck one of them in the mouth, then Naruto created shadows of Saki and himself. Another said, what the? Which one of them is real? They were drawn to one of the clone duos. The clone said, PFFTT. As he spit out his tongue and laughed at them before running away to pursue them. As Tenten continued to hit her targets, the others were fleeing in a panic. The thief exclaimed, duck. As it became clear that these aliens were attempting to obtain more familiar humans from Earth in order to engage in intergalactic human trafficking. Thief and his 2 allies ducked when he said that, but their 4th comrade, who was actually a duck alien, popped up in response. Yes. Oomph. His human disguise took a blow to the jaw. 2 more were spotted by the 2 who pursued the clones. Yohu! Exclaimed the clone, setting down his sake and carrying a bat. When one of them threw Tenten's arrow at the clone with all of its might, the clone struck back at him like a baseball and struck the alien in the mouth once more. She continued to shoot with Tenten, treating the situation as though it were the shooting game Rito had taken them to 3 days prior at the arcade. The duck alien had the worst luck since he kept getting hit and kept spinning after each blow. He was heading left at first, and then bam, bam turned left after turning right, and this process was repeated twice more. Then Tenten saw 2 more and struck one in the back and the other in the butt. He then fired after spotting the same 4 in a different bush. Duck! They exclaimed. What? Oomph! He was struck in the same jaw area once more. As the real Naruto released Saki's gag, they were everywhere. As he untied her, he said, man, this quite an event you got set up. I'm actually impressed here. Saki remained silent because, to be honest, that was the first time a man had actually saved her and carried her in that way. Even though he seemed to think it was all a setup, she was actually prevented from acknowledging that this was all true by her pride as a noblewoman, not to mention that the school would become alarmed. Oh, why, of course. After all, a bodyguard must be ready to handle any situation. You and the new girl seem to be pretty good at this, he replied. He untied her and said, well, when you train for it, this is only natural. He said, by the way, where's the goal again? Saki was trying to think until she gave it some thought. Just take me to Rin and Aya and you and your friend pass and are therefore hired, she responded quickly. Naruto said as he carried her once more, okay then. She said, Eek, what are you doing? As he ran up the wall to gain a better view and keep an eye out for Rin and Aya, who are currently searching for Saki, Naruto told her, well, I can't let you get captured and it's a lot faster if I carry you like this. Rin was devastated by this incident. The real Naruto and Saki were then noticed by the 2 aliens pursuing clones as they leapt high, and Naruto saw them. Naruto then leapt and gave them 2 quick kicks behind their heads, knocking them out. Man, you really aren't kidding about having the best. Tenten focused on her final objective, who was attempting to flee the school in order to escape. Her final arrow struck the back of his head, sending him flying across the street. Got ya! She exclaimed. The unfortunate alien duck had had enough and fled into the locker room, saying, "Whoops, I may have used a little too much force." That is, the girl's locker room. Unfortunately for him, Naruto was still in her underwear and had just changed when she was touched. Naruto screamed, and the alien duck said, She exclaimed, "Eek!" and threw him out. She remarked, "Bad, Naruto-chan belongs to Rito-kyun. Because she has recently made it a point to avoid being touched by others, since Riza told her that's how girls become close friends, and that a guy touching you in the same way indicates he wants to be close to you. She doesn't mind Riza." Her reasoning for the dramatic rejection is thus clear. The duck alien said, "Somebody just kill me," as if to compound his bad luck. He was thrown into a janitor's closet, where buckets and other objects fell on him. He muttered, "I quit." Then, as his human disguise came off and Zaston's alien tracker alerted him to unlawful alien activity at Seinen High School, he passed out. He used the previous version, which can only identify aliens who are not disguised and are illegally hiding on Earth, which is why it didn't go off earlier. Sake was eventually introduced to Rin and Aya by Naruto. Rin worriedly said, "Ujo-sama, are you alright? Are you hurt?" As Rin turned to face him, Sake said, "I'm fine. Really, it was thanks to this boy and the new girl I made it out okay." Tenten then materialized from above. "You two saved her?" Rin exclaimed, utterly stunned. While Sake pulled Rin back for a minute to explain everything to Rin and Aya, Naruto asked in confusion, "Wasn't that what we were supposed to do?" "So they thought that was all part of the test?" Aya responded. "Yes, we can't really tell them no at this point given how they dealt with those imposters," Sake responded. Rin remained somewhat uncertain. "I don't know," she said. As Sake looked at Naruto telling Tenten how much fun that was, she blushed and said, "There's no need to worry yourself, Rin. I think they can be trusted with my life, and luckily." "Oju-sama!" exclaimed Rin. "Oh right," she cried in a panic. "I think we should hire them, since they should satisfy my father's worries, and luckily it was all recorded so he can see the results himself," she stated to them. Aya exclaimed, "Okay," as Rin let out a defeated sigh and concurred with her mistress. For the time being, Tenten and Naruto would be bodyguards, making roughly 150,000 yen by this time next week. Mio to Kanata, Lala, and even Naruto to apply for jobs. A door opens, a bell jingles, and those three people, dressed as maids, speak in the bright light. "Welcome, master," they said as they looked up to see Naruto, Rito, and Tenten. They seemed to be on a trial basis for a cafe where the manager was a woman searching for a certain charm in order to hire girls instead of depending on interviews and the like. As of right now, it appears that they will be hired. For example, they were going to be alright financially for 5 freeloaders. Lala didn't have to work, but since she completes her homework in less than an hour, she figured it would be enjoyable to kill time rather than just heading home. They had a busy day, and we'll end with a striking image of Lala, Hinata, and Naruto dressed as maids, ready to serve desserts. Sake sent her father the videos of the security guard trials the day after they were held, and he requested that she bring Naruto and Tenten to their mansion so he could meet them. The way he laughed when they first met him made it clear that they had a family connection. Sake then spoke with her father, and after waiting for roughly half an hour, she left his study. Sake informed them, "It's official, you guys start your duties in 6 days." Naruto exclaimed, "Yes," while Tenten let out a sigh of relief. She couldn't help but smile at how excited they appeared as she said, "I'll be counting on you two to work with Rin." Sake handed them envelopes and said, "Oh, and here." Tenten said, "What's this?" Sake informed them, "Just a bonus pay for demonstrating promising potential." There were roughly 200,000 yen in each, thus, the total was $400,000. Naruto exclaimed, "Thanks a lot, Sake-chan." Tenten said, "You know we have to start calling her Oju-sama, right?" "Oh, we do?" inquired Naruto. "Oh, no. Feel free to call me by my name." Sake quickly became excited and delighted that Naruto was addressing her by her first name. She then began to imagine herself and Naruto dating, getting engaged, getting married, and having a large family. Naruto and Tenten were wondering if she was okay because she was so engrossed in her thoughts. Rin then gave them permission to leave for the day and go home. Even though Lala is solely dependent on Peak, she did choose to purchase some clothing for her to wear at night because Peak does require 8 hours of sleep in order to recharge. This was made possible by Naruto and Tenten demonstrating the money. In the evening, a spacecraft arrived on Earth and touched down. The alien that emerged transformed into a human. On the way to school the next morning, Naruto spotted a familiar face on the roof. As he ran away, Naruto said, Hey, you guys go on ahead of me, I gotta go to the bathroom. Hinata suspected that he was concealing something when Naruto reached the school's roof. Zaston was there. Naruto questioned, did you come back for another round? No, I can admit I was defeated. I recognize you as Princess Lala's fiancé, as do her parents, replied Zaston. Her parents? Inquired Naruto. Zaston pulled out a video message, but the screen only displayed the Devolukian family crest. I sent the word on our queen's behalf and the king couldn't be here himself to talk to you in person, but he did have a message for you. Naruto heard what was said. Is this thing on? Oh, it is? Ahem. Uzumaki. Naruto, it has come to my attention that my daughter has chosen you as her fiancé. In case it isn't clear to you as to who I am, Maya's Gid Lucione Devoluk. I am the king of Devoluk and the entire universe. The message was delivered by a voice. Gid's voice made a strong impression, no doubt. With all that said, and after seeing what you were capable of, I can admit there is potential in you, boy. However, you're still a long way from overcoming those that are just as strong as myself. I will allow you to court my daughter regardless, and eventually I will personally put you through my special training program since your potential intrigues me. Also, far as the wedding itself is concerned, that will take place whenever the hell I feel like it and happen to have time to be there, Gid concluded. Naruto asked, is this guy serious? By himself? Till I say otherwise, my daughter is in your hands. Oh, and I almost forgot, the suitors didn't like it too much when they heard Lala chose her fiancé on Earth. Rather than deal with them, I told them if they can beat you or convince Lala to marry them, then I'll consider it. Hope your training will prepare you for the suitors that will likely head your way. Gid concluded the conversation. Naruto grumbled, so, he just basically shoved all that responsibility onto me. Zaston said, yes, I'm afraid that's just how our king is. Then he noticed a red light blinking. Zaston flipped the switch and the video screen returned. Oh, it appears the message was cut off and there's one more part to it. As the message finally came to an end, Gid said in a menacing fatherly tone, sorry about that, this is the most important part of the message, kid. If anything should happen to my daughter or if you should happen to break her heart, I will personally obliterate the entire Earth and enslave the human race. When Naruto said, can you do that? As Naruto envisioned a parody of Frieza from DBZ destroying planets, Zaston responded, why yes, King Gid has destroyed 15 worlds in the Galactic War so far in one shot too. Zaston inquired, is everything okay, Naruto Dono? Naruto muttered, yeah, great, just great. Zaston knelt down to him and said, never you worry, Naruto Dono. I have been tasked with assisting you should the suitors get out of hand. Through the school windows, Lala was observed by a well-built, pink-skinned alien who was around 6 feet tall on the school grounds. Then he saw Naruto moving through the hallways. But he was moving strangely. For some reason everything was being noted by the alien. He is already familiar with Naruto's name. All he needs is some leverage. He then observed Saki's group as Sake expressed her excitement about Naruto becoming her bodyguard. The alien said, After coming up with a scheme, he started investigating various parts of the school. Despite appearing as pale as a ghost, Naruto managed to make it to class. Oni-sama? Exclaimed Naruto. Rito asked him, is everything okay? Naruto answered, yeah, just great. He couldn't possibly tell them that a marriage between him and Lala would determine the fate of the planet. The concept itself was crazy. Naruto let his face fall to the desk and muttered, I'm gonna need help with this. In order to move around the school and see what he could do to take Lala away from Naruto, the alien changed into a janitor. As class began, he saw a shed for storage and peered inside. This will do now. I just need to call in the attention of that girl, then the fiancé will come running here. He thought to himself he had to exercise caution because she had 2 bodyguards before a baseball struck his head at random and partially undid his change. We could hear his eerie laugh. Yo, sorry about that, exclaimed a student dressed in the baseball team uniform. The alien turned into the student and knocked him out, saying, Grr. He returned to his work and saw Sake moving to the hallway, saying, troublesome human. She was followed to the girls' restroom by Rin and Aya. This was his opportunity. So he moved fast since Sake nearly got abducted the other day. Rin has been more watchful and has been keeping an eye on her in front of the toilet. Sake said, Rin, you don't need to worry so much. Protecting you is my duty. Oju-sama, I would never forgive myself if something happened to you, Rin responded. Rin, Aya exclaimed, moved by her friend's dedication to keeping Sake safe. Then they saw a tiny black sphere rolling toward them. The sphere released a lot of knockout gas as Sake emerged. And they both passed out. Everyone was changing as the next class period began. Naruto waited for the girls, as did Rito. Their noses began to bleed as soon as they saw them because of how noticeable Lala, Hinata, and Naruko's chests were. Lala said, does it look good? Naruko exclaimed, nay. Does Rito-kun, like this? Before she jumped out in terror when Riza attempted to grope her once more. Hinata felt self-conscious about her new figure. She said suggestively, "Fufufu, I have to admit Hinata looks really delicious right now. Oh, but take a look at Lala and Naruto," Riza said, groping them. Haruna told her friend, Riza-chan, "Stop that." Riza remarked, "Let's not forget about you, Haruna-chan." Haruna groaned. Ah. Riza had done this deliberately to elicit a response from Rito, who was suffering from a more severe nosebleed. Haruna sighed with relief that it was over as Riza laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, that was awesome, Rito." She felt somewhat of a kindred spirit with Hinata, so she helped her up. Naruto turned around after a rock was thrown at him and noticed a note on it as they left for class. As he read it, it stated. Naruto then pointed to a photo of Sake bound in a manner akin to that of a slave and said, "I have someone you know in my grasp. Meet me in the storage unit outside the school building in the next 10 minutes. Come alone." He said, "Oh no, everything okay?" Naruto asked, turning to see Hinata and Lala. "Oh yeah, everything's fine. I just gotta go to the bathroom. Tell the teacher I'll be a little late," he informed them. Lala said, "Okay." Hinata questioned, "You sure everything is okay?" She seemed to have an innate sense of whether he was concealing something, which impressed Naruto. As he then took off, Naruto assured her, "I promise everything is okay." As Lala pointed that out, Hinata uttered the words, "You're a bad liar." Naruto headed to the storage unit that contained all of the gym equipment. When he opened it, he saw Sake there, with a tentacled creature of some sort directly beneath her. Naruto glanced at the offender and said, "So you made it good." Naruto said, "Hey, aren't you a student here?" The student's skin turned pink, revealing a hideous face with sharp teeth, and he said, "Not exactly." Naruto questioned, "Are you an alien too?" "Correct, the name is Prince Gibri. You stand in my way of marrying the princess," he stated to Naruto. "So you are a suitor?" Sake woke up at that moment and took note of her predicament. "Correct, I'll make this short and simple if you value this girl's well-being." As the tentacles slowly moved up her shirt and groped her breasts before moving up her skirt and touching her, she cried in terror, "Ah! What is this? No, my body belongs to Na. It's so slimy and gross. Get away from me." Gibri said, "You understand, right?" Naruto became enraged and asked, "Why are you doing this?" Gibri laughed and stuck out his tongue, saying, "Simple, Princess Lala is the most beautiful princess in the galaxy. Doing whatever it takes to make her mine is the only thing I can do." Naruto's left foot stomped. Huh? Unaware that his chakra had turned red, Naruto yelled angrily, "So that's it? You're doing all this for a selfish reason like that? I don't care if you are a prince, you're just a scumbag that needs a good ass kicking." The alien tentacle was frightened by the presence of this red chakra, so it released Sake and hid in its hole. Gibri shouted, "Hey! Where the hell are you going?" Unable to comprehend how its instincts had told it to flee, he looked over at Naruto. Gibri yelled as he grew larger, "Let's see how you like my true form." Sake was terrified at first, but she soon realized that Naruto would still take on this challenge. Naruto lunged forward and used his right arm to deliver a straight blow. He simply flew across and through the wall, demonstrating his lack of mass and muscle for such a large man like a princess. Naruto caught Sake after cutting her down. Sake attempted to inquire as to why Naruto had saved her, saying, "Why did you? I mean, you don't start till next week." Sake blushed and felt her heart skip a few beats, but Naruto smiled and said, "True, but that doesn't mean that should be the only reason I should be protecting you, right? You were in trouble and I wanted to save you." Setting her down, Naruto looked at Gibri. He watched as he shrank into a smaller alien. Like a balloon, Naruto picked him up by the feet and said, "What the hell?" Naruto asked, "Did I do that?" to himself. Naruto looked up at Lala and said, "Don't worry, that's his true form." Gibri's race has the ability to transform into anything and anyone, but as a result, their bodies are somewhat weak and incapable of fighting. Gibri muttered, "Damn it, I was so close." "Prince Gibri, as I previously stated, I will not be accepting your proposal." Lala revealed Gibri's wife and kids, saying, "I don't think your wife appreciates either. It seems that she had them brought here right away after learning about things from Zaston." "Oh crap," Gibri exclaimed as he realized he was in trouble. Lala took them all to Zaston and had them sent back to their planet because Gibri was going to be charged for causing all this trouble. A few moments later, Rin and Aya showed up after searching for Sake, but nothing she said made sense because she kept talking in random words. Naruto made up a story that Sake was locked in here for some reason and he just happened to find her here. He felt that telling them that an alien had white eyes and a pink-haired girl was close to Naruto. "Why are they so close to my future spouse and lover, and who are they supposed to be?" Sake asked herself, feeling as though she had just discovered some competitors. Sake sat in her room at Tenjuan's house, examining photos taken by the Tenjuan family inspector to gather as much information as possible about Naruto, including where he lives and with whom. Images from the previous 5 days showed Naruto interacting with either Lala, Hinata, or both. She mentioned that he and the other 2 girls lived at the Yuki residence. She investigated the attention that Hinata, Lala, and even Naruto were receiving. This is not good. My position as queen is in danger, and 2 of these girls are attempting to take the man I intend to make my husband. If they think can outdo me as his wife, then I shall. Wait, that's it. The answer to put myself in that favor and show where I stand is so obvious. Oh, ho. Sake chuckled as thunder clapped behind her for a dramatic effect. Since he and Tenten will begin their bodyguard duties tomorrow, Naruto and the others were simply walking home. Fortunately, they arrive at Saki's mansion faster than a car ride thanks to their ninja training in dashing and other skills. Then they saw a limousine parked outside the residence. As Sake, Aya, and Rin emerged from the car, Naruto began, isn't that? Oh, ho. Tenten replied, yep, that's Sake. Is there a problem? I thought we didn't start till tomorrow, said Naruto. Oh no, there's no problem, I just got curious as to who those 2 are, Sake said, gesturing to Hinata and Lala with her fan. Everyone slapped Lala's face for saying, well, I'm Lala and that's Hinata. I'm his fiancé and Hinata is going to be his second wife. Without considering the repercussions, Sake then broke her fan in 2 as a result of this. Is that so? Then you should have no problem proving it to me by accepting my challenge. I shall show you where a lady of high class stands over the common man. Oh, ho. Sake said as she was about to declare war. She was unaware that Hinata and Lala were standing in the same spot as her. Hinata is a former heiress to her clan, and Lala as a princess. Hanabi simply left the house to greet everyone since Mikan and Hanabi are still in elementary school. Keep in mind that they frequently arrive home before the others. Hanabi inquired, did I miss something? I Tenju and Sake challenge you 2 to a wife contest. They all exclaimed, wife contest. The winner of this contest shall receive a kiss from Naruto, Sake informed them. Me? A startled Naruto exclaimed. Lala said, okay, I'm in, because it sounded like a good time. A kiss from Naruto. Hinata dreamed about it, which temporarily overcame her shyness and set her on fire. I'm in too. I think Lala might be influencing her a bit now these days, Tenten said. Naruto told Sake, who had just mentioned her and the Naruto siblings, Naruko-chan wants to be a judge. Naruko-chan has to make sure Onisama will be well taken care of, she said. Sake said, oh then of course. Feeling certain that she would prevail, Sake told herself, if I can win his sister over, then I'll have him in the palm of my hands. Then I'll be judged too. Hanabi caught everyone's attention. Hanabi informed them, I need to make sure things are played fairly. Sake laughed confidently and said, very well then. First thing tomorrow at the school we shall show everyone who the true wife is. Oh, ho. The following day 3 of the most popular girls were going to compete in a cooking competition, and the entire school was outside to watch. Each of them is dressed to resemble a housewife inspired by their maid Natsu. Hinata wore a yellow apron underneath a Hyuga-style kimono. Hanabi came up with this idea to assist her sister because she thought a contest of wives required an outfit for a wife. Hinata was even wearing her hair apron. The boys applauded because Hinata looked like a typical housewife, which isn't something you see very often. It was adorable, but this ensemble adequately highlighted her best features. Her breasts appeared to be more noticeable when she covered up. With Peek's assistance, Lala added a cooking apron that read, "Number 1 Wife," to her dress form. The attractive cosplayer Lala waved hello to everyone who applauded as the boys applauded. Sake is then seen sporting a white apron over a one-piece swimsuit. It was so sexy that the boys cheered. There was a lot of interest in the 3 distinct looks. Some of the male students who wanted to witness this tied Yui down when she attempted to stop it. Aya said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the wife cooking contest." Into her microphone, "I am your host Aya, and next to me for remarks are Kuju Rin, Uzumaki Naruko, and from Seinen Elementary School is Hinata's younger sister Hyuga Hanabi." Rin said, "Hello." In response, Naruko said, "Naruko-chan is happy to see everyone here." Hanabi went on, "I hope for a fair contest of skill. Okay, the rules of this contest are simple. The 3 contestants have 3 hours to cook a meal for the man in question. Mr. Uzumaki Naruto, depending on which meal he likes the best, will determine the winner." Aya clarified that everyone was thrilled. Aya advertised the products used for the competition, saying, All the necessary tools needed to cook were provided by the Tenjuin family and are all affordable in the nearby retail store for all your cooking needs. Because Saki's father had permitted this to advertise products from his company, yes, the man spoils his daughter, but he also manages to profit from prostitution. Naruto was extremely hungry. As he sat in front of the judging table, he had to forego lunch and breakfast. Naruto muttered, "So hungry, need food," since Tenten had shackled him with an iron ball and he was unable to move. "The contest starts now," exclaimed Aya, and there they go. The girls said as they began to prepare food. As Hinata mixed the flour, poured the milk, and broke the eggs with grace, she looked like the ideal housewife that many men aspire to be as she started combining all of her ingredients and unseen items in the cooking pot. Lala had that adorable wife vibe. Lala simply hummed a cheerful song because, presumably, this was just the way she was. She had that sophisticated woman with sake who performed background music like a sophisticated orchestra. "It appears that our rivals are off to a promising start," said Aya. Rin added in a comment, "Oju-sama seems to be doing well, though I don't know what an orchestra has to do with cooking." "Ooh, Hinata is stirring like crazy," exclaimed Naruto. Naruko-chan wonders what Lala is making. Putting her aside, I think Oni-sama is making a snack before the actual dinner, since baking tends to take a little more time over what she seems to have planned. Hanabi continued. Aya inquired, "What do you mean?" Hanabi answered, "You'll see." After that, Hinata added what appeared to be cinnamon and sugar to the mixture in a baking pan. "Oh, I see now. She is baking cinnamon rolls." Aya screamed. Hinata simply placed them in the oven before moving on to what looked like rice. Hinata began preparing rice balls. Lala forgot to eat. As a black mass grew out, Lala remarked, "It's about that time." Aya exclaimed, "What is that stuff?" As the others concurred, Rin remarked, "It must be a foreign food." Sake had made tomato soup as an appetizer and a simple but elegant steak with a special sauce over it. Lala was the first to eat. Lala exclaimed, "Tada! A Devolukian delicacy known as dark matter," while Naruto and the others gave it a, "What the hell is that? Look." Naruto remarked, "Oh well, it looks unique." Lala exclaimed, "Well, go ahead and eat it." With excitement, Naruto was apprehensive. Rito told Tenten, "There's no way that's edible." Tenten said, "Yeah, but what choice does he have right now?" It was difficult to say at the moment because Lala was so joyful. When Naruto looked at her using a spoon, he scooped some of it and bit into it slowly. Then, while everyone awaited his response, he swallowed it. He remained motionless until he fainted and fell to the ground. Rito and Tenten shouted, "Gah, he's down," while attempting to tend to him. "Oh my god, he's tearing up blood," exclaimed Tenten. Could her massive blob have been so good it caused him to pass out? Sake inquired. Sake ignored Naruto's need for assistance, telling herself, "No, in the end, I shall be the winner here." Lala gave it a taste. Unaffected, Lala asked herself, I wonder if using salt was a poor substitute?" As he questioned whether it was a coincidence, Rito said, "Let me see that." Rito passed out as soon as he took that bite. "Not you too," exclaimed Tenten. Lala took a moment to give the boys a medication, and Peak said, "Perhaps dark matter just isn't edible for humans." Naruto inquired, "What happened?" Tenten asked Rito in his mind, he doesn't remember almost dying. As he attempted to remember what had happened, Aya declared, moving on, we have Hinata's dish." Hinata nervously revealed freshly baked cinnamon rolls and rice balls shaped like Naruto, saying, "I hope you like this, Naruto-kun." As he consumed one rice ball and one cinnamon roll, Naruto remarked, "These look really good." Naruto exclaimed, "Wow! These are really good." As Hinata grinned, pleased that he had liked them. "Looks like he likes them, folks. I wonder how Sake will compete," said Aya. Sake's turn came at last. After cutting the steak, she chose to feed Naruto herself rather than letting him eat. As Naruto opened his mouth, Sake said, "Here you are, Naruto, say ah." "Ah." Naruto then bit into the steak, swallowed it, and savored its flavor and texture. It was very tasty. What a way to counter! Instead of letting him eat it, she fed it to him herself, and that seemed to really trigger a reaction, Aya said. "Naruko-chan wants to feed Rito-kyun like that too," Naruko stated. Hanabi continued, "I underestimated Oni-sama's competition. It appears that Sake is doing well. They were going to wait until he unexpectedly chose a winner." They all turned to see that Mikan had received a message from one of his shadow clones stating that he truly desired ramen. "Hey, Naruto-san. I brought the ramen you wanted," they exclaimed as she placed the bowl of ramen on his table. Mikan had no idea what was happening. As Naruto happily ate and slurped down that ramen in less than a minute, Aya remarked, "A new challenger." He exclaimed, "Phew, man, that's some good ramen," while everyone believed the contest was still ongoing. Aya remarked, "I think that's it, we have a winner," while Mikan surveyed the area. Mikan was unsure of how to interpret the entire circumstance. With that, our mystery person gets a kiss from Naruto, Aya screamed. "What?" Mikan cried out in fear as Naruto approached her. He was about to kiss her forehead when his beads turned yellow once more and became 16 times heavier, forcing him to kiss Mikan on the lips instead. Following Naruto's separation from her, Mikan fled from the school all the way back to the house in shame because she was so flushed. In contrast, Naruto struggled to stand up. Rito's beads became 8 times heavier and changed color as well. This created quite a stir because Sake felt like she had just lost her femininity to a young girl. That was unexpected, and Hanabi felt sorry for her friend. Even though Hinata knew it was an accident, she was still upset that Mikan was the recipient of Naruto's first kiss. Lala found it endearing for a while. Mikan lay on her bed beneath the covers, feeling so ashamed that she had just received her first kiss. While Naruto and Rito were essentially confined to the ground, she essentially remained there for the remainder of the day, so Hinata had to prepare dinner for everyone, and they all decided that Lala would never again prepare dark matter for them. Kodagawa Yui, the president of the disciplinary committee, was at home late one evening. She kept track of everything that happened at Seinen High School, and many of the problems and misbehaviors began when the new students arrived. It has simply been a series of tumultuous incidents. She then circles Naruto's name with her red marker, thinking to herself, and the root of all these troubles. Uzumaki Naruto, starting tomorrow things will now change. She replied. She showed up early the following morning for a meeting with the disciplinary committee. She told her fellow members, "If we don't get a handle on this, our school will fall into utter chaos." She said, "Our school cannot go through another mishap like the ones we've been having the past month. In order to make this school a thriving place, we need to enforce every rule there is to enforce. The teachers won't even be exempt from this," she informed them. "But ma'am, that would mean," as she went on, Yui encouraged the disciplinary team to start their investigation into the school. "Yes, that means we must take over the school since our principal is an unreliable man who is easily corrupted by his perversity. The first step begins at the gate where Sake, Rin, and Aya were waiting when Naruto and the others arrived." "Naruto, you've finally made it," Sake exclaimed, taking hold of his arm. Tenten's voice was irritated as she answered, "You know I'm here too." Not really listening to Tenten, Sake answered, "Oh, yes, of course, glad you could make it." "Hey, I want to hold Naruto," exclaimed Lala as Hinata seized his other arm and she leapt on his back. Rito opened his mouth to say, "Hey, come on, cut it out," but Naruto grabbed his arm as well. He asked. Glancing at her, she informed him, "Naruto-chan likes this." At that moment, they heard someone blow a whistle at them. "Indecent behavior," they all exclaimed as they turned to see Yui. Jokingly, Naruto said, "Is there a problem, officer? Public displays of affection are strictly forbidden on school grounds," she stated to them. Sake, who had never heard of that rule before, inquired, "Since when?" Yui showed them the student handbook, which nobody really bothers to read, and said, "Read it right here." Each of them read it for a minute. Naruto remarked, "Oh, there it is, but even still, don't you think you're making too big a deal out of this?" She warned them as they were walking that, "If you break one rule, then this school will fall into chaos. You all get your first warning with this, so get to class." However, as soon as they arrived on school property, a line of members from the disciplinary committee were there to inspect the students' bags. Then they all saw Mio and Riza. As they lined up behind them, Naruto said, "Hey, Riza, Mio, what gives?" "I don't really know, but apparently Kodagawa has decided to inspect our bags for contraband," she stated to them. As Riza, Mio, Naruto, Tenten, Rin, Hinata, and Lala giggled nervously, Rito said, "Well, it's not like any of us have things to hide, right?" Naruto, Tenten, and Hinata had some of their ninja gear concealed on them in case something unexpected happened. Rin had her family sword on hand for her bodyguard duties, and Riza and Mio had reportedly brought fashion and bikini magazines. Lala took the longest because, inexplicably, her bag held a whole closet full of devices and innovations. "How the hell did you fit all that in there?" they were asking. After it was seized, she informed them, "Oh well, I modified my with distortion space technology. So my bag can have an infinite amount of space to fit things in there, but it's still a prototype." One of the disciplinary members was covered in ash, black, and blew out smoke before passing out when the bag exploded in his face at the word prototype. Everyone felt sorry for the man even though they weren't particularly surprised by the explosion. The discipline committee was focusing on the students for the next few days. All of their belongings that they say they shouldn't have were seized behind the scenes. They were obtaining the teacher's consent to delegate authority to them over the course of a few days. Things were gradually changing. Anyone feel like something is different about the school? Asked Rito. Lala, enjoying herself as she marched through the hallways, said, "Not really? Why?" It seemed that Kodagawa Yui was now ruling over everyone. A day later, she called the students over to discuss a change to the school uniform. The boys were now officially required to tie their uniforms and comb their hair in a specific way, while the girls were now expected to wear very long skirts that reached their knees. Everyone exclaimed in disbelief as they were now compelled to change. There were so many things going on at once. The pupils wore their uniforms the following day from the disciplinary committee's room. Yui saw everything. Yui turned to face her second-in-command and said, "Kodagawa-san, everything is proceeding smoothly." Kubo Akira was his name. He wore the boy's new school uniform, had combed over his black hair, had pale skin, and his glasses made it difficult to tell what color his eyes were. He is essentially a stereotypical nerd. As she went outside to examine her own transformation, Yui remarked, "That's good, we just need to make this last long enough and this school will finally be a decent place." Kubo grinned as he watched her go as if he was planning something. Riza, Mio, Hinata, Haruna, Naruto, and Lala are discussing the skirts in the hallways on the second floor. Riza grumbled, "Really, what's Kodagawa thinking with these skirts? These lack a lot of sex appeal, not mention it's really uncomfortable," she said. Mio said, "I know what you mean." Naruto sobbed dramatically and complained to them. Naruko-chan tripped over herself 7 times today and Rito-kun couldn't see her panties. Unaware that Naruko was so audacious, Haruna exclaimed in disbelief, "Why you want Yuki-kun to see your panties?" "Oh, you poor baby." Riza embraced Naruko while both sobbed excessively, their tears streaming out like a waterfall because they felt as though they had lost something significant due to these recent changes. They all nodded in agreement when Lala said, "So, you all just want to wear something that's more comfortable, right? These long skirts were too much, even for Haruna and Hinata." "Okay then. Leave it to me." Lala exclaimed as she produced her multi-purpose instrument. Mio questioned, "What's that? And how did you hide it?" Then she started tinkering and said, "My all-purpose tool, and I had it hidden under my skirt." 5 minutes later. "Tada!" she exclaimed, revealing hairpins that resembled peak, but some of them were diamond-shaped and others were heart-shaped. "Just put these on your hair and your uniforms will change." Lala exclaimed. Yui took them away just as they were ready to try them. "Hey! Contraband! You know the rules, only school-related items are allowed here." She yelled at them as Riza used the speed of her sexual molester to get behind Yui and put one on her. She questioned, "What the heck are these anyway?" Yui exclaimed, "Hey," as she started to change into her school uniform. Naruto was carrying a stack of papers that he needed to bring to class on the way there. Naturally, the height of it prevented him from seeing ahead. Yui noticed that the heart-shaped hair clip on her hair had been altered to match her school uniform. Her skirt was shorter than before, her belly button was visible, and it was extremely skin-tight because of its heart shape. The sides showed more of her thighs while the front concealed her underwear. While attempting to hide, she exclaimed, "WW, what the hell is this?" As Lala was examining Yui, Riza said, "Oh, very nice Lala, as expected of foreign technology. This uniform is so shameless. Change it back right now," Yui yelled. Lala said, "Okay. Just take off the hairpin." While doing so, Yui retreated, not realizing that she had run into Naruto, and the two ended up in a precarious situation. Taking in his surroundings, Naruto questioned, "What happened? Why is it so dark?" Every time he breathed, he heard moaning. We can now take a closer look. After backing up, Yui's long skirt greatly obscured Naruto's face, and her lower body was on top of it when she became aware of her position and the girl's intense gaze. You shameless jerk," she exclaimed, getting to her feet and flushing profusely at the idea of her underwear being seen. Naruto appeared perplexed, and before he knew it, he was imprisoned in a classroom that the school no longer uses as the student body, and the disciplinary committee looked on. Yui yelled, "You'll stay in there till you've repented for your crimes." They had no idea that Yui would go that far. Everyone get to class. Before long, everyone had left. Naruto questioned, "Are you really okay with this?" She questioned, "What are you talking about? I get you have responsibilities to uphold here for the school, but don't you think treating everyone like this is gonna backfire at some point? You're gonna end up being alone for the rest of your life if this keeps up," Naruto replied. As she reflected on her life experiences, she responded to him, "I don't care. This whole world is so shameless and indecent." People like the principal and you who like to do shameless things are the worst. If I have to make enemies then so be it. Before moving to Sinan, every boy she had ever seen and interacted with had been nothing more than jerks who took advantage of women and those who were weaker than them. After that, she left to go to class. As he sat at a desk, Naruto remarked, "Guess she has some problems of her own." He could now simply use his ninja abilities to get away, but he thought he might as well try to be kind and find out something about Yui to persuade her to stop this bullshit. He heard a sound in the broom closet at that moment. Panic set in. "Who's there?" Naruto asked, frightened because, if he had to list one weakness, it would be his tendency to be extremely suspicious of supernatural beings. He even thought that Paranormal Activity and other shows that discussed ghosts were real. As he made his way slowly to the broom closet, Naruto said, "I'm warning you, I may be thin but I'm scrappy." He inhaled deeply and felt his heart race until he opened it and leapt. Sake emerged. They fell to the ground. "What the?" "Looks like my plan was a success," she informed him. "What plan?" "To scare the daylights out of me," he responded. "No, silly, to be in here with you to have some alone time together," he replied. He said, "Huh? Wait, how did you even get in here?" As Naruto was unsure of how to interpret it, she clarified, "That's easy, all I did was notice her taking you away, then heard her say to have this room ready for your imprisonment, so I got here ahead of you guys and hid myself here." Then he noticed that rather than her uniform, she was dressed in a bathrobe. He questioned, "Is there a reason for this?" "Why, Naruto, this is so you and I can consummate our relationship," she stated to him. For some reason, he felt uneasy and asked, "Relationship?" As she opened her robe to show that she was wearing an all-black lace bra and panties, she said to him, "Well, given what happened at the wife contest, I think this is only fitting." Naruto was enthralled with this. To put it mildly, he was unaware that blood was streaming down the stairs. She said to him, "Oh my, I take it this means you like it?" She began to groan as she took his hands and let him touch her behind and chest. He questioned, "Is this even okay?" She lowered herself to kiss him and said, "Of course. After all, you're the man I've decided to have as my husband." Naruto let his tongue explore her mouth while she did the same for him, and they were making out passionately. Naruto questioned whether Lala and Hinata would eventually desire this as well. Yui pondered a few things while she was out in the hallway. Considering Naruto's inquiries, although he has been at the center of the majority of the recent school incidents, he isn't actually a bad guy despite Yui's efforts to improve the school. She saw through the window that some of the students appeared depressed. She returned to the classroom where she had him confined, saying, "Maybe I should at least hear him out." While Naruto's hands explored every part of Saki's body, they continued to make out. To try to make things more agreeable, she said, "You know, if you marry me you'll be getting both Rin and Aya to be yours too, right?" Naruto considered it, remembering a similar arrangement with Lala in which he would become king of the universe or something similar if he married her. He heard the door open while he was thinking. Yui saw them and said, "Hey, look, I thought about what you said." Any positive thoughts she might have had about Naruto vanished. She screamed at them, "What the hell are you two doing?" Both were now confined to two different classrooms. Yui's control over the school is far from over. Kubo and a few other members of the disciplinary club were chatting among themselves. "It's all going according to plan. The school will be under our rule," Kubo stated to them. They asked, "What about Kotogawa? While it is a shame we won't be able to sway her to our cause. Her role was meant to be our pawn the moment we allowed her to be the president of disciplinary committee. Those who rule by emotion are bound to fail. Those with intelligence must rule this school. Once we show the public this, our carriers in changing the world in the future will be all set," Kubo said as everyone else in the group had glasses shining in the sunlight and covering their eyes. "Let her continue to believe that things are going her way for the time being. Keep her on the path we've had her on for so long." After being freed from his prison in the classroom, Yui and the disciplinary committee were keeping a close eye on Naruto most of the time. Sake received a warning. Sake had to ask him a crucial question, so they left for home. "Naruto," she exclaimed. He blushed from what they had done earlier and said, "Yes." As Naruto considered it, she said, "As you know, you are my bodyguard, and well, given the spark we had, I think it would be a benefit to us if you moved to my house." Sake was shocked when he said, "That's a great offer, but I can't do it." She said, "Why not?" As they noticed Rin and Aya waiting by Saki's limo, Naruto said to her, "Well, I mean, the Yukis gave me, my sister, my friends, and Lala a roof to live under." Hard to explain, but it really feels like we're a bit of a family there, Naruto told Rin. "Here she is safe and sound." Knowing about their encounter in the classroom, Rin cautioned Naruto, saying, "I'll let what happened slide since Lady Sake did do it by her own choice." With trepidation, Naruto said, "Right then." They left, and since everyone else went home before him, He walked home. Yui was taking a shower and letting the water run down her body as night fell. She was still thinking about what Naruto had said. Then she slapped her cheeks and shook her head. No, there's no way something could go wrong. The school is finally getting on the right track, she reassured herself. Yui showed up the next morning to discover that something had gone wrong today. Some of the girls found it difficult to walk because the long skirt rule had been lifted and they were now wearing even shorter skirts than before. She screamed, "Hey, what's the meaning of all this?" One of the female students threw a book at Yui, complaining, "Like you don't know you're the one who keeps making these changes." She said, "What are you talking about? I didn't approve this." But at the moment, nobody seemed to believe her. As she hurried to the disciplinary committee club room and ignored the paperwork, the girls continued to give her suspicious looks. She could not have given her approval for this to occur. Naruto's group took note of the modifications while Riza was having a great time with this rule, showing off to Rito, making him blush and panic, and Naruto did the same. The girls were extremely embarrassed, but Lala and Naruto didn't seem to be too bothered. Since this didn't seem to fit with Yui's handling of situations, Naruto reprimanded, "Knock it off already, you two. Don't you think this is a little bit weird?" The situation was only becoming worse every day. The boys and girls were required to use the co-ed restrooms the next day. Both parties found it awkward. As a result, the people who were permitted to enter the library abruptly changed. After that, the library was off limits to anyone with a grade point average below an A. Tenten and Rin observed, "It's almost as if they won't keep those who want to try from even entering." Yui continued to investigate how and by whom these rules were being made. The next day, a strict regulation was put into place. Yui asked, "No skirts?" She observed that the disciplinary committee was enjoying enforcing this regulation. In relation to them, she said, "I don't recall adding more members." She mentioned that she had to constantly deal with the majority of the new guys because they were delinquents. Yui began reviewing everything in the club room. Once more there was a problem. At last, she discovered the proof of the perp. Not long after reading the name, the door closed after she said, "Impossible." Her fellow members, led by Kubo, arrived with a few muscle to support them. Kubo snapped his finger at Yui, saying, "I knew you wouldn't leave well enough alone, Kodagawa." They overpowered her and tied her to a chair after she attempted to defend herself, but there were too many of them. She realized her skirt was missing when she came to. As her clubmates laughed and entered, she exclaimed, "Ah, what is this? Why am I indecently exposed?" She exclaimed, "Kubo, everyone, why are you doing this?" Kubo sat down and said, "Why? Because this is how we were raised to deal with simpletons like you." "What? Come on, Kodagawa, you didn't really think you got picked for the position for your grades, right? We know about your history with boys and how you find them repulsive. It made perfect sense to let you be the president of this club. Who better to manipulate than the girl who hates boys and all things related to romance? Come on, that was just a recipe for disaster waiting to happen," Kubo stated in a manner that appeared pompous. According to Yui, that's a lie. As Yui reflected on how some of the students didn't believe her when she told them she wasn't making the new changes, Kubo retorted, "Oh come. If that weren't the case, why hasn't anyone believed you? There you go. See, if there's one the masses believe, it's that the one in charge is always the first to be blamed for this stuff. We must have been planning this for months. Thanks to you being well, no one was the wiser to the little changes we were implementing since you first took over," Kubo stated to her. Yui questioned, "Why? What's the point of all this? Why? Well, everyone here except you has a promising future in the politics and business world. All we need to do is show our parents how we reform a school by manipulating you into doing it all for us. Right now the school is in a panic with our no-skirt policy. In the next hour or so news reporters will be here and you'll be blamed for this, and the principal will be replaced by an associate of my dad's to make this a school for the exceptionally gifted," Kubo stated to her as he threw the strategy at her. Yui was taken aback and found it hard to accept that she had been duped. "Ah, don't make that face. If it makes you feel any better, you can thank some of the female students that work with us on this to make this all possible," Kubo replied with a chuckle. They all took out their phones to snap pictures, and Kubo said, "All right boys and girls, we got an hour of free time. Who here is finally ready for some payback?" Meanwhile, the girls were fleeing for their lives from the out-of-control boys and the perverted principal, who were primarily led by Sariyama and the principal. Even though the principal was only wearing boxer briefs for some reason, then he saw Naruto looking for her beloved Rito while Haruna tried to hide her embarrassment. Naruto said, "Come on Haruna, Rito-kun is around here somewhere." As Naruto tried to come up with a reason for Rito to confess so that she and Haruna could have their way with him, Haruna questioned, "Why do we have to let him see?" Then she heard many boys and the principal. The principal screamed, "Naruto-chan, marry me," as Naruto kicked him in the face, sending him flying like a bowling ball to the other boys. As he made contact and crashed into the boys, the principal exclaimed, "This is good too," with ecstasy. Naruto-chan belongs to Rito-kun, she screamed. Haruna said, Uzumaki-chan, you really like Yuki-kun. Haruna questioned, so why are you doing this for me? Naruto smiled and said, well, Naruto-chan just wants all of us to be happy. Naruto-chan thinks she may have gotten it from Lala. Haruna was still a little perplexed back with Yui, who remained restrained in order to prepare for his final play. Kubo took a leave of absence. One of the students exclaimed, woohoo, Kodagawa Yui is about to make her debut on internet. While they kept shooting as they took their photos, Yui began to cry. Before they knew it, something outside had covered the windows and the lights had gone out. The student exclaimed, oh god, what the hell? Because there was very little light from their phones and it was dark. It was pitch dark in the room. The lights in the hallways and from outside were being obstructed. Yui heard students being knocked out as they hit the floor and looked around in a panic. Noticing that her arms and legs were free, she noticed Hinata and Tenten, and the lights returned. Tenten said, hello. As Yui felt a hand on her shoulder, Hinata said, hello. Yui then punched Naruto in the nose. Ow. God, that hurt. Exclaimed Naruto. Yui exclaimed, perplexed, Uzumaki. Naruto rubbed his nose and grumbled, nice to see you too. How did you guys? The three of them said, ninja training. Oh, Yui didn't care because she was feeling down at the time. I can't believe I was used. I just wanted to make the school a better place, she stated to them. Yui looked up and Naruto said, we know. Hinata went on, Kodagawa-san, there's no need to blame yourself. You've got some personal issues, granted, but you had the students' best interest at heart. But part of being in school is being able to enjoy the time you have here, isn't it? If you always put a fence on everyone, then they're bound to want to break it down, Naruto replied. Yui yelled, and what let it fall into a chaotic mess. No, I think there's a middle ground you can follow. If you want people to trust you, then you need to show them you can be trusted, but that all depends on whether or not you're gonna let that jerk get away with this, Naruto said to her. As Yui pondered the matter, she realized that Naruto might not be as horrible as she first thought. Yui firmly assured them, I am the president of the disciplinary committee and I am going to set things right. Tenten handed Yui her skirt and said, then you're going to need to this first. Using a cell phone that Sake had given him, Naruto called and said, then let's get things rolling. Operation is a go, Naruto declared as Sake, the person he had summoned, ordered Rin, Aya, and the Tenjuin family's servants to work as quickly as possible. Riza's job was to use fan service to divert Kubo's attention. The Tenjuin servants cleaned everything up and got things back to normal in less than 15 minutes. The new reporters thought it must have been a prank call and left without noticing anything out of the ordinary about the school. As he observed that the news reporters had departed, Naruto remarked, wow, I guess it pays to be in a rich family sometimes. Dealing with Kubo came next. Every student in the gym demanded an explanation. Kubo was already trying to win them over. It's okay, nothing to worry about. As long as the students are on my side, I can still get them to say what happened and blame it all on Kodagawa. He was thinking about it. Naruto signaled Lala to play back a message that he, Hinata, and Tenten had recorded using Saki's cell phone. Hey, Kubo, I think you had a few words to say to the student body. He was broadcasting everything he said to Yui and more. He shouted, TT, that's all a lie. Fabricated. While the students were now staring at him, he stepped back nervously, feeling Kodagawa Yui's firm, soft breasts against his back. Kubo, you were in firm violation of the school rules and abused your position as a disciplinary committee member. You and your cohorts are hereby removed from the committee and will await judgment from the faculty, Yui said with confidence because Kubo was nervous. GG, go ahead, my father is a powerful man, he'll sue the school for what it's worth, he replied. They all turned to see Sake holding her phone and say, not likely. I just talked with my father and provided the evidence to him. He's a very powerful businessman himself and has seized all of your familia's accounts until this matter is resolved. Sake informed him. Now Kubo was in serious trouble. Sake said to Yui, I think you have something to give him, Kodagawa-san. Yep. Yui then flashed a deadly smile, her left eye sparkling and her eyes blackened out. Kubo pleaded, don't hurt me, she yelled, this is for putting me through something shameless. As she struck him in the chin with a strong left uppercut, knocked him onto his back, and passed out. The difficult part was about to begin. For once, she acknowledged that she was at fault. Students of Seinen High School, I'm sorry, she exclaimed, shocking the students, who had never seen Kodagawa bow or apologize in such a way. I was wrong. I just wanted to make the school a better place, but I was only making it better for myself and made trouble for others. That's why I will resign from my position. I don't deserve it. If you can forgive me for the trouble I have caused these past few days, then I thank you. Yui said with a heartfelt apology from the inside out. She gave Naruto her armband and said, "Feel free to elect whoever you want." Before Yui could leave the stage, Naruto lifted it. "I vote for Kodagawa Yui," exclaimed both Yui and the students in disbelief. Yui screamed at him, "Didn't you hear what I just said, you idiot? I did. You said we could vote for whoever we wanted and I vote for you," replied Naruto. Riza's vote was the next sound they heard. "Yeah, Kodagawa," exclaimed Riza as she received votes from Sake, Rin, Aya, Mio, Lala, Naruko, Haruna, and Rito. The students called out her name one by one. "But why I made such a mess of things?" Yui sobbed, a little relieved that the students still wanted her on the disciplinary committee, but she was also perplexed. "Simple. Yeah, you made a mess of things, but your heart was in the right place. We can't fault you for that. Besides, despite how much you yell at us, out of everyone here you care about the students here more than anyone. There's no one more suited for the job than you. Besides, I think the girls need a defender from the principal." Naruto chuckled to himself. That one was the truth. Naruto offered her armband back and said, "What do you say? Will you take the job and uphold the rules of the school?" Yui let out a small cry. As she calmed down and dried her tears, Yui said, "Yes." She was grateful that the students still trusted her with the job. After that, the incident was resolved, and life resumed as usual. The next week, "Hey, stop that flirting. Public display of affections is an indecent act for this school." Yui yelled at two students who fled from her. She reprimanded, "Get back here." Although she was reprimanding students in a different way, things truly returned to normal. Although she still adhered to the rules, she didn't seem to care as much about them. Yui quickly attracted new members who were eager to help her maintain the safety of the school. The doorbell rang at the Yuki residence after school. Mikan said, "I'll get it." Then she noticed Sake, Rin, and Aya carrying bags and suitcases. She exclaimed, "Rito, your friends are coming to visit." Everyone was standing at the door, curious about what was going on. Naruto said, Sake, why are you three here?" "Simple. I realize now I can't get you to move out, so I have decided the three of us shall move in here with you, although I'm surprised such a small house can accommodate so many people," Sake responded. As they entered with their bags, Rin apologized for the inconvenience. Aya said, "Coming through," Lala exclaimed, "Yay, new roommates." As she led them to the rooms behind Rito's closet upstairs, Sake, Rin, and Aya suddenly moved in, forcibly. Mikan grumbled, "Hey, we can't afford to keep more of you guys here," until Sake handed him a check. Sake had apparently ordered some pricey meat for them to eat, and after realizing how much it was, she changed her mind and welcomed them home. "Oh, I'll make adjustments to the refrigerator so we can store more food," Lala said. Rito was asked by Naruto, "You beginning to feel like the male-to-female ratio is overwhelming?" When they realized there were two men trapped with so many girls in one house, he said, "Totally." Everyone in the Yuki household was attempting to fall asleep in the evening, but Naruto was having a hard time falling asleep. Why? Since Sake is approaching him with Rin and Aya, Rin used the excuse that Sake could be harmed at any time to drag Tenten there as well. Naruto pleaded, "Please, can I get some sleep?" This was because Sake was licking and kissing his neck at the time, feeling his muscles with her hands as she moved over his body. Sake moaned a little and started sucking on Naruto's neck until she left a mark that made him feel amused. "Fufufu. Now Naruto, you can't tell me you aren't at all enticed right now, are you?" she said. Sake moved her hand into his briefs to show him how much she loved him, saying, "Looks like you're getting a bit excited." However, Tenten grabbed her hand with an irritated expression. Tenten, who exuded a black aura, said, "Please don't even try it." Sake was a little scared and slept next to Naruto when she said, "I would like to get some sleep. Is that all right with you?" Tenten returned to her slumber despite letting out a sigh of relief. Naruto found it difficult to fall asleep because Sake was too near due to his lack of sleep. Naruto had bags under his eyes the following morning. Fortunately, today was a school holiday, so everyone was out and about. Hinata knocked on Lala's room door and said, "Lala-san, time to wake up." Then the door opened, and she was gone. She left a note stating that she needed to pick up something and would be gone for the majority of the day. Hinata called everyone's attention and simply nodded, saying that since Zaston reportedly accompanied her, everything should be all right. Following breakfast, Lala created a simulation room for Naruto, Tenten, Hinata, and Hanabi to train in. To facilitate their training, they set it to a setting that was similar to their own. The field where Hinata and Hanabi stood was ideal for Hyuga's must fight. On their own, Hinata and Hanabi were making steady progress. As they got closer, Hinata felt comfortable telling Hanabi that she had lost the battle because she couldn't bear the idea of harming her. Hanabi expressed her happiness at her sister's deep concern for her, but she also stated that she aspires to be strong herself and wants her sister to fight to the death. At the moment, they were gradually honing their skills while engaging in a little rematch. Hinata was elegant but strong, while Hanabi was quick and fierce. Tenten and Naruto were training in taijutsu on their own. Rin came in to watch them work out. It was inspiring, she had to admit, and she wanted to be one of them. Sake and Aya were making their three-person bedroom uniquely their own. Sake said to Aya, "No, maybe it would look better over there." They were attempting to find a way to customize this space for themselves. Sake was attempting to move a portrait of Naruto, but he appeared to be a handsome boy from a shoujo manga. Mikan was in charge of the laundry. Naruto was outside with Rito, observing him tend to the plants. Naruto remarks, "Wow, Rito-kun really likes to take care of the plants." When Naruto shook her head no, Rito said embarrassedly, "Well, I've had a thing for gardening. I guess it must not be very manly compared to other guys." As she touched one of the flowers after it had been watered, Naruto told him, "Nah, Naruto-chan can tell the plants are happy. Rito-kun takes really good care of them." "Can Rito-kun show Naruto-chan how to take care of plants?" Naruto inquired. Rito began to teach, sure, although he was anxious to be near her because he had to teach her how to water plants correctly. Naruto not only learned but also enjoyed Rito's close embrace. This is paradise, Naruto thought to herself. They hear Mikan shouting during this. What the heck? Mikan? Rito glanced and made the decision to find out. As she trailed behind him, Naruto exclaimed, her cheeks flushed, "Moo." Naruto-chan was enjoying that. Before long, the house had a completely different appearance. It was furnished with brand new pieces. Rin appeared ashamed since she already knew what had happened, but Naruto and the others arrived and witnessed the changes. Rito and Mikan shouted, "What happened to our house?" Based on the pricey furniture, they all turned to Rin. She said, "I am so sorry about this, please let me talk to her." It seemed that Sake and Aya were the ones who were responsible. In order to access the closet, they went to Rito's room, but it was transformed into an enormous wardrobe. Rito shouted, "What happened to my room?" Naruto glanced at the clothes and asked, "Does she really need all this stuff?" He turned his head away when he unintentionally took out an S&M outfit and put it back, not wanting to know what she was thinking of wearing. "This is Oju-sama," Rin exclaimed as Aya emerged from their room. Sake said, Rin, perfect. What do you think of the changes?" Rin said to her, "Don't you think this is a bit much?" Sake asked, "Is it?" Tenten then pointed out frills on some of her ninja tools and asked, "How did you even do all this in such a short amount of time?" "Well, it was just going to be our room, but then I felt a full house makeover was in order. I accidentally stepped on this little doohickey and it altered the room, so I messed with it till it changed things to what I wanted it to be. In our closet is not big enough for all my clothes, so I had this room turned into my wardrobe room," Sake explained as she demonstrated the unique ray weapon she had discovered. Rito grumbled, "Then where am I gonna sleep?" Sake questioned, "Isn't there another room out there?" "That's my parents' room," Rito answered. Naruto proposed, "Then Rito-kun can sleep with Naruto-chan." Rito and the others noticed the design and realized it was one of Lala's inventions. "No, hey wait, isn't that gun?" Rito exclaimed, and they all retreated a short distance. Sake inquired, "What's wrong?" Since Rin and Aya also failed to understand. Naruto said in a terrified voice, "Sake just slowly put the little gun down." Rin questioned them, "Why are you all acting so weird?" Rito said, "That's one of Lala's inventions." "That's the thing that almost," Tenten remarked, seemingly attempting to suppress a negative memory. "Almost what?" inquired Aya. Naruto answered, "That thing can change anything into something else." In an attempt to suppress the memory, Naruto retorted, "Naruto-chan was turned into a chair. That thing was locked up by Lala cause it went nuts after a few shots." "How many times have you used it?" replied Naruto. "This appears to have been Lala's prototype for an invention that could change a person into a different person or object. The issue is that it suddenly misfires and goes crazy after a random number of shots. Nearly all of them were transformed into something else. The first victim was Tenten, which Rito wore as a pair of boxer briefs. Naruto spent an hour working on his homework while Naruto was transformed into a chair. Fortunately, Lala was able to turn it off and restore normalcy despite the chaos. Sake was about to say something foolish when it fired off a random beam, turning Rin's shirt into warm pudding. "Oh come on, that's just..." Sake put it down slowly and stepped back, saying, Maybe I should put it down now." Tenten questioned, "How did she even get it?" Everybody gazed at Lala's room. She left without realizing that her pocket dimension closet was broken and in need of repair. Rito and Naruto covered their eyes to keep from seeing the pudding that was dripping off Rin in the meantime. Then there was a sound as they sought shelter. Tenten uttered the words, "Oh no, here it goes again." Because of her training, Rin responded by reflecting the beam back at the gun with her sword. As they saw the gun transformed into a shoe, everyone turned to look at Rin as their new hero. After finishing that, they threw the shoe in with the other inventions because Lala's closet had exploded, leaving the room in a complete mess. Everyone complied with Naruto's order to, "Okay, nobody touch anything in there till Lala gets back." As Sake made calls, sold the furniture she had altered, and purchased comparable pieces to replace the ones she had changed, Naruto summoned shadow clones to assist with cleaning and restoring everything to normal. "Next, let's get this house back to normal. Okay Sake, I get you have a different sort of life from us, but part of living with housemates is being able to learn to live with others and accepting the fact we all have to respect each other's personal space, not to mention as long as we live under the Yuki house we need to live by their rules and not make a lot of trouble for them." Naruto gave a lecture. Sake apologized to everyone and said, "I'm sorry, since Lala Sake is accustomed to a completely different lifestyle from theirs." They all let it go. "We can understand your situation Sake-san, but I think you'll find there are times when you need to rely on yourself a bit more. Living here may provide you with more life experience than you planned," Hinata stated to her. Sake said, "Like what?" Hanabi gave her, Rin, and Aya a bucket and other cleaning supplies, saying, "New housemates get to clean the bathroom." Tenten remarked, "I'd listened to her and Mikan." Hanabi and Mikan had become close, and Hanabi was even open to learning from Mikan how to cook and take care of the house. Sake tried to object, but Hanabi and Mikan pulled her away, and Aya and Rin followed since they knew they had to make up for the trouble Sake had caused. Mikan joked, "Never thought I'd have to teach someone older than me how to clean." As Naruto and Rito both felt as though they had forgotten something, Tenten said, "Well, let's get this replacement furniture in here," and said, "We don't want the parents of this house thinking something is up." As the clones rearranged the furniture, Rito inquired, "How long have you guys been here?" Naruto was attempting to solve the equation. Naruto said, I would say close to 2 months. Why?" After glancing at the calendar, Rito came to a realization. "Oh crap!" he exclaimed. "What?" As Mikan emerged because she could hear the shouting, Rito exclaimed, "My dad is on break this coming weekend and my mom is gonna be visiting from her trip in France next week." "Rito, what's with all the yelling?" inquired Mikan. Rito exclaimed, "Dad and Mom are coming home to see how we're doing." Since they still hadn't explained every one of the unexpected housemates, 1 alien princess, who is currently the heiress to the Tenjuan family fortune, and 4 from another world. Rito calmed down, knowing Dad, I doubt this will affect him much and Mom won't mind given how Lala has made room for everyone, they even pay to help with the bills and food. Mikan replied with calmness. "You're right, no need to panic as long as we don't give them a reason to panic." Mikan replied to Rito. Then they felt the yard's ground tremble. "Now what?" they exclaimed as they stepped outside and saw a massive plant with teeth and a mouth. The way it was planted to the ground was enormous. "Yo-ho! I'm back everyone." Lala was there when they all looked up. Rito exclaimed, "Lala, what is that?" As the enormous plant Celine made animal-like noises as though it were acclimating to the new soil in its roots. Lala responded, "Oh, this is a thank you gift to you and Mikan for letting me and everyone else stay here. I bought it off from a far-off planet and the seller said her name is Celine." Feeling scared at the moment, Hanabi questioned, "It's not gonna eat us, is it?" Lala answered, "Nah, Celine is actually pretty harmless." Now Rito was concerned there was a lot going on. Even worse, they heard the front gate open and saw that Mr. and Mrs. Yuki had chosen to surprise their children by returning home earlier than they had promised. Glancing at his father, Rito said, "Haha, the old white lie of coming home later than we did works every time." Rito appeared as pale as a ghost in just 1 hour. All of the explanations that needed to be made were accepted as a mangaka. Rito's father saw this as motivation to carry on with his work. Saki's sense of style appealed to their mother, who now had more attractive women to serve as models for her at home if necessary. Rito was currently in a state of stupor on the couch. As she passed him, Mikan said, "I told you not to worry about it." Everyone was enjoying pizza in celebration of the new housemates. Rito's father even hoped that his son would bring in more roommates while pouring them drinks. Naruko continued to refer to them as Odo-sama and Okawa-sama in an attempt to pass herself off as Rito's girlfriend. Naruto reassured them that nothing negative would occur while they were there. A few days later, Rito is seen watering Celine, who appears to be very content. "How are you liking it, Celine?" Rito said, as Celine made a joyful noise as it moved joyfully. "Man, I can't believe how easily Mom and Dad just accept things like it's nothing." As she entered with a wheelbarrow, Naruko exclaimed, "Rito-kyun." Naruko-chan got the fertilizer for Celine. She was dressed like a farm girl, complete with twin tails, a straw hat, and overalls with no shirt underneath, created by one of Lala's dress pins on the front of her hair. Rito's nose bled when her arms were shown off, as well as when you could see the sides of her breasts and the top of her cleavage. Naruto shook him and said, "Rito-kun, are you okay?" The Yuki house has definitely become livelier, and just as a ship was sailing toward Earth, they were about to come to life. In the final chapter, the ship finally touches down in the middle of the night just outside of Sinan City after 2 days of travel. The person who exits searches for Lala's current location and discovers that she attends Sinan High School. After that, he started using his ship to hack into the student registration system and enter his name. Everyone at the Yuki residence was sleeping peacefully for the first time. Naruto had his room to himself. Sake shared a room with Rin and Aya, who slept in separate beds with her Rito-hugging pillow, which Naruto and the others made to at least quell her desire to embrace Rito so that Rito could sleep. Naruto slept soundly. Fortunately, Naruto enjoys talking while she sleeps. Rito-kun not there. Naruto-chan is sensitive there. Hee Rito-kun is so silly. That's not how you make a baby. It seems that Naruto has been reading about how having sex can result in conception while she unconsciously took off her clothes. Lala was also dreaming about getting married to Naruto. She always wakes up naked because she has a bad habit of taking off her clothes while she sleeps. Hinata slept well after having a dream in which she and Naruto were a family and she saw him return home and inquired. Hinata is much bolder in her dreams since dream. Naruto responded, "Would you like dinner first? Or bath first?" Hinata was covered in cream as she waited for her dream husband to finish his dinner before it became too cold. All the boys kept asking Hanabi out, but she turned them down like a cool, attractive woman would. Hanabi dreamed of being as gorgeous as her sister, with the exact same proportions. Mikan is still unable to recall the kiss she received while she was asleep. Rito was dreaming of his beloved Haruna when Naruto suddenly materialized in his dream. He was shocked to see how much Haruna and Naruto were making fun of him. Sweet dreams were being had by everyone in the house. After breakfast the next morning, they made sure Celine had everything she needed before departing. Despite her man-eating sunflower plant appearance, Celine was, as Lala stated, extremely well-behaved and tamed, and she cherished the attention that Rito and Naruto gave her. Celine was regarded by Rito as a member of their family. Rito shouted, "See you later, Celine," as they walked away. Naruto continued, "Bye-bye Celine-chan," as Celine joyfully waved goodbye. Celine pondered what it would be like to stroll around like everyone else and see the world outside the garden as she watched them go. They all arrived at school without any issues. After a brief period of calm, the teacher announced that another student would be joining them for the day. As they waited, everyone appeared shocked to learn that the boy had hot pink eyes, white hair with 2 protruding points on top, and black hair on the back. He smiled like a cool guy, and many of the girls squealed with delight, finding him attractive. Then he introduced himself in front of the class. Lala exclaimed, "Oh, it's Ren," as Ren regained his composure, pleased that Lala remembered him. Everyone yelled, "What?" in shock as he said, "My name is Ren Elise Jewelaria and I have come for my fiancée Lala Sadalin Deviluk." Lala appeared perplexed, wondering why he had said that. As her friends gazed at her, Naruto questioned, "Lala, was he fiancé candidate?" Ren felt shattered and like glass, so Lala said, "Nope." Ren pushed Rito and Naruto aside and exclaimed, "Lala, you gotta remember, we were kids and always played together." "Right," Lala said. Remembering those times, we would always play lots of games. What Ren referred to as games were actually days when Lala used him as a test subject for her early inventions, all of which failed. Naruto remarked, "I'm surprised he's not holding any grudges." Rito went on to say, "I think it's amazing he's even alive." He couldn't believe that everyone at his house was still alive because of Lala's inventions when they malfunctioned. "Then one day I asked you if I could grow up to be a real man, would you marry me, and you said yes?" Ren recalled. Lala gave it a lot of thought, but she can't seem to remember that. Lala said, "I don't remember you asking me that." At that moment, Ren felt as though everything was falling apart. Rito said, "Now I just feel bad for the guy." As Ren appeared perplexed, Lala said, "Besides, I can't marry you, Ren." Lala pulled Naruto in and gave him a hug as Ren felt as though he had been shot through the heart. "I've chosen Naruto as my fiancé." Naruto and Hinata nodded in agreement as Rito continued, "Talk about rubbing the open wound with salt." Ren exclaimed, there's no way I can accept that." As he attempted to strike Naruto but was stopped and struck in the face, Naruto remarked, "That was kind of easy." The girls now felt sorry for Ren.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.